Will you please read that?
I call the 2,444th meeting of the Milwaukie City Council to order. This meeting is Can we start over? This meeting is being held in person at City Hall and by video conference. And we're having some feedback in the room for those of you who may be trying to watch us and wondering what the heck is going on. The public may participate. Okay. The public may participate in this meeting by coming to City Hall or joining the Zoom webinar. The meeting is being broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and Comcast Cable Channel 30 in city limits. There will be opportunities for the public to speak during this meeting. If you would like to address council, you may come to City Hall or participate via Zoom. If you are interested in speaking, please let staff know by filling out a yellow comment card for those at City Hall or emailing ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov for those on Zoom. When it is time to take public comments, staff will monitor the comment cards, email inbox, and Zoom participant list and chat. We will take comments in the order they are received and seen. Comments may be emailed to ocr@milwaukieoregon.gov. We ask that all Zoom participants who intend to speak label their Zoom username to show their first and last names for the record. Translation services are also available in multiple languages. Please see the information on the slide. So we do have a slide coming up about how to request meeting translation services, which are, we do ask that you request 48 hours in advance of the meeting if you need meeting translation services, but we are happy to provide those. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The City of Milwaukie respectfully acknowledges that our community is located on the ancestral homeland of the Clackamas people. In 1855, the surviving members of the Clackamas signed the Willamette Valley Treaty, also known as the Kalapuya, etc. Treaty, with the federal government in good faith. We offer our respect and gratitude to the indigenous people of this land. And I'm happy to say some of our announcements this week have to do with the indigenous people of this land, and specifically the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. Join a community talk with David Harrelson, the Cultural Resources Manager of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, this Thursday, March 5th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at Letting Library. David will share about the tribe's history, lessons about naming spaces, and the importance of placekeeping. Sign up for Johnson Creek Watersheds Council's Unified Restoration event this Saturday, March 7th from 8:45 a.m. to noon. Volunteers will spread out to 8 simultaneous work parties, and you will get a free lunch at the end of the event. Learn more and register on the Johnson Creek Watershed Council website. Please join the North Clackamas Watershed Council to main trails and remove invasive species along Kellogg Creek this Saturday, March 7th from 9 a.m. to noon. Volunteers will be working in the Milwaukie Presbyterian Church Outdoor Sanctuary, just a 5-minute walk from downtown. Learn more and RSVP to volunteer on the North Clackamas Watershed Council's website. The city will continue to accept applications for all boards and committees until March 15th. There we go. If you are interested in serving on any of the city's boards or committees, please visit the city website where you can find the application materials. Kate Schatz, author, educator, speaker, and author of the Rad Woman book series, will speak at Letting Library on Wednesday, March 18th at 6:30 p.m. All are welcome to attend. The city's 2026 Earth Day event is scheduled for Saturday, April 25th. So this is kind of just a hold the date thing, because that's a ways away, from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30, and will take place at Scott Park. Also on Saturday, March 14th, it's the second Saturday, so that means the Milwaukie Parks Foundation and Wetlands Conservancy will be working in Minthorn Springs, so come join us there between 9:30 and noon. For more information about each of these events and others, please visit the city's homepage at milwaukieoregon.gov or call 503-786-7555. And I thought that Councilor Stavengerd might have an event on Sunday she would like to announce.
I sure do. Thank you, Mayor. In partnership with other female-owned businesses downtown and female-owned wineries across the Portland Metro and state of Oregon, we are participating in a wine walk. It's called Milwaukie, for those of you who are playing along at home. There are a number of businesses that will have stops along the way. There's a walking map that has been developed, and from 1 to 5 p.m. you can stop in at local businesses downtown and visit with wineries, sample some of their wares. There will be bottles for purchase, and there are other sort of add-on fun things like, different snacks and hors d'oeuvres at each of the locations that are catered locally. And then their word on the street is that there will also be Girl Scouts set up. So if you need cookies, it's not our troop. But there will be Girl Scouts and a few other local businesses that are also women-owned who will be participating. So want to appreciate the organizing power behind the business of Milwaukie, and I'm super excited for this kickoff event.
All right. Okay. And so we have a haiku. I think this one was written by a member of the staff here in Milwaukie, Emma Fish, and she called it the Bay Park. A honk on the wind, wings tipped toward golden sun, slosh, the geese all land. It's a nice one. Yeah. All right, so with that, we will move on to our proclamation for this week, which is Women's History Month. And it is being presented by Linda Carr alone, huh? We had more people with you in our script, but welcome.
It's just me today. I'm here representing the Milwaukie Historical Society, reading the proclamation for the Women's History Month. Whereas each year since 1987, the United States observes Women's History Month, a month-long celebration every March to acknowledge the struggles and contributions of women of every race, class, and ethnic background. And whereas women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of society by constituting a significant portion of the labor force and unpaid labor working inside and outside the home. And whereas women courageously make up a majority of our essential workforce in several occupations, including healthcare, education, agricultural, social, and administrative services. And whereas Milwaukie women have played a unique role throughout the history of the city by providing most of the volunteer labor force of the city, serving our country in the national and state armed forces, and the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions. And whereas women have been leaders, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movements, and especially the peace movement. And whereas despite these contributions, the role of women in Milwaukie, Oregon, and their national histories have been overlooked and undervalued.
Now, therefore, I, Lisa Beatty, Mayor of the City of Milwaukie, a municipal corporation in the County of Clackamas in the state of Oregon, and with the full support and sponsorship of the Milwaukie Historical Society, do hereby proclaim March 2026 to be Women's History Month in Milwaukie, and do recommend its observance with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. So one of those appropriate activities would be the wine walk on Sunday.
There you go.
But also visiting the Milwaukie Museum, which is open on Saturdays from 11 to 4.
That's
Is that
correct,
correct?
yes.
And it doesn't cost you a dime. They would love to have donations, I know, but it does not cost you a dime to go in. I know the exhibit now is about the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence.
That's correct, yes.
Is there any part of it that's women-focused at all?
Not at the particular moment in time, however, we do have a book there, Women of Milwaukie, that's still available. And if we run out of them, we can always order more.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you for coming and joining us
You're welcome.
tonight
Thank
and
you.
reading the proclamation.
Mayor Beatty, may I make a quick historical pitch for Women's History Month as well? I talk about folks who served in my position quite a bit, but one of the names that I love to talk about a lot is Nell Martin, who was our last elected city recorder. She was elected in 1940. The charter changed in 1944, and she became the first appointed, and she served in this role until the day she died in 1966, which was in March 14th, 1966, which was 60 years ago in about a week. So thank you to all the women who served Milwaukie historically and to this point, to today, and thinking about you today and next week, Nell. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we will move on to our 2025 Volunteer of the Year selection, and I'll invite up Community Engagement Coordinator Jason Wax to walk us all through our assignment on this one. Before we get around to voting. Oh, we need our laptops for this. Remember, you're gonna need your ballot. No. I mean, not right this minute, but you will. Go right ahead, whenever you're.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I think this is like the 11th time I've been here to help guide you through the Volunteer of the Year. So I've been doing this for a while. So I'm just going to go about a little bit of the background of the Volunteer of the Year, the past winners, the criteria, so everyone at home, anybody watching and council understands where that is, and then we'll go through and do the vote online and announce the winner. All right, so the Volunteer of the Year Award began in 2012. As I said, I've been a part of, I think, 11 of those. I think this is the 12th one. We have a Volunteer of the Year actually here with us tonight, David Aschenbrenner, in 2015. Good to see you, Dave. Yeah, so last year's winner was Pam Denham. We've actually, and speaking to women leaders in our community, the last 3 winners have actually been women. And I think in terms of like total of all of them, the majority have been women over the years. So that's great. The criteria is pretty simple. Anyone who resides in Milwaukie or is a member of a nonprofit organization or business that serves the community can be nominated. We look at longevity of service to the community, some contribution of service in 2025 within the total volunteer efforts. Service within the city limits is important. And then a lot of times, some contribution to the city in some sort of activity that the city leads, like a board or committee or a neighbor district association. But that's not necessarily required. But a lot of our winners in the past have had that contribution as well. And that's really the basic, I know these are always tough decisions and it's very open in terms of who can be nominated. So, but I know council's liked it that way over the years, so we've kept it that way. Any questions on the criteria or the history or anything like that? Okay, thanks. So the nomination process this year began on November 24th, 2025. It ended on February 11th, 2026. We did it once again on Engage Milwaukie. And I believe we had 12 individuals nominated. There is one this year that was nominated as a team, and we have had two of the years, we have had two people who have won. So that is also a possibility, definitely. We haven't limited it to just individuals over the years. One of the nominees was the Volunteer of the Year in 2017 as well. But we also have never put a rule in that says you couldn't win twice. We just haven't had that happen up to this point. So I know I assigned each counselor a volunteer or two or three to highlight this year. I did want to mention that David Potts was accidentally included in the nominees. He actually meant to nominate Colleen Rockwell, so he's not one of the nominees, but he was removed from that. And if he's watching or anyone else, I apologize for including that in the staff report, but it's been corrected now. So I guess if the council would like to start in terms of.
Shall we go with the way you have them listed? Are they assigned?
I believe I assigned them from left to right, starting with Councilor Stavanger and moving that direction.
Okay.
I think they should be in that order. I do apologize that some counselors have more to highlight than others, because since I removed one, it got a little bit imbalanced, so.
Yeah, and just for the record, this is a new practice we started a couple years ago, because we used to just vote based on written things, but I think it's a valuable practice to just spend a minute or two talking about each person and the activities for which they were nominated, so that other people in the community also know about them and their contribution to the city, and it's not just us who got the benefit of seeing all the nominations. So with that, I will turn it over to Councilor Stavanger.
Thank you. It was a joy, again, to read through the nominations, and I really appreciate the time that has gone into this, that, you know, folks putting forward the nominations, but also compiling the process. Much appreciated. So let me get to my notes. Just one moment. The first one that I have is actually a team, and it's Allie Callow-Spencer and Linda Hedges. This team has provided extraordinary service to the Milwaukie community through their leadership of the Community Emergency Response Team, CERT. And in 2025 alone, they each volunteered an estimated 12 to 15 hours per week, coordinating trainings, organizing emergency response drills, supporting community preparedness around the city. They helped to lead monthly CERT meetings, spring and fall training courses, outreach efforts at community events like the Umbrella Parade, which was huge this year, and the Farmers Market, the Juneteenth celebration, the Sustainability Fair, and Operation Santa. Their leadership also helped expand Milwaukee's CERT program from 38 to 53 active volunteers, significantly strengthening our city's ability to respond to emergencies and support neighbors through times of crisis. 2025 was also a major milestone for the CERT program as it formally transitioned under the city of Milwaukie. Allie and Linda played a key role in supporting that transition and continue to work closely with the city's emergency management and resilience coordinator. Their leadership commitment and care for their neighbors is remarkable. Allie and Linda have strengthened Milwaukee's resilience and community spirit, making them truly deserving with this recognition of nomination for Volunteer of the Year. That is our first act to follow. And then the second nomination is one that brings a smile to my face, because I know this person personally, and she is deserving of every word in the nomination statements that we received. So Lisa Gunyon-Ranker is our second nominee. Lisa is the type of volunteer that every community hopes for. She shows up consistently, lends a hand wherever it's needed, and helps make Milwaukie a more connected and vibrant place to live. Lisa was nominated because of her continued service to the Milwaukie Parks Foundation, and the volunteer service that she provides regularly in some of the city's most treasured natural spaces, including Minthorn Springs, Elk Rock Island Park, and through stewardship that requires hands-on involvement, like weeding, mulching, and maintaining these areas. She helps ensure that these parks remain beautiful and welcoming for everyone in the community. Lisa is also an active member and officer in the Ardenwald-Johnson Creek Neighborhood Association, where she contributes her time and energy to neighborhood events and activities. She supports community traditions like the Christmas ships and solstice events, helps organize neighborhood gatherings, bringing residents together. She also lends her support to the beloved local traditions like Dave's Halloween activities at the Davis Graveyard, and participates in city events such as the community recycling efforts. For the last 8 years, at least 8 years, Lisa has been a familiar and dependable presence in Milwaukee's volunteer community, whether caring for parks, supporting neighborhood events, or sharing her love of nature with others. And she brings enthusiasm, generosity, and a true spirit of community service. She was nominated twice, I believe. So 2 different entries, and Lisa, I can see Lisa's smile right now, as she is undoubtedly not listening to this, but rather planning some community event. So it's with my honor to bring forth the second nominee, Lisa Gunyon-Ranker.
You only got 2, huh? All right.
Did you need more time?
No, I'm good. I just thought you were the one that got 2.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I had the pleasure of having the next 3, Nick Hess, Tom Hogan, and Amanda McAdams. 2 of the 3 who I know personally, as I've had discussions in one way or another with them. First one, Nick Hess. I just took some points that I thought were particularly noticeable from the submissions. Something that stood out is Nick Hess's exceptional commitment to the city through civic leadership, youth mentorship, community event creation, and hands-on volunteer. I think we all can agree with that. He was actually born in Milwaukie, has deep roots here, and immediately made an impact upon moving back to Milwaukie. And in my conversations personally, I've seen firsthand of the care and commitment that he has to our city. Every conversation that I've had with him, the centerpiece was what's best for Milwaukie, how can we do better for the residents? So I appreciate Nick very much. Next is Mr. Tom Hogan, who I've also had the pleasure of working with. For those that don't know, which I'm sure most of you do, Tom Hogan is the founder and president of the Milwaukie Poetry Series, and he created that. And I've had the pleasure and the honor of being able to present at a couple of those events through invite with Mr. Hogan, and I can't say enough how much, not only do I appreciate it, but I know everybody who participates or who has been around to see that has appreciated that as well, because the poetry has been unique, it's been incredible, and it's an art form that brings people together. So I do appreciate Mr. Hogan. A couple of things on him, as I mentioned, founder and president of Milwaukie Poetry Series. The whole thing I read about him was that bringing people together is Tom's theme. And on top of that, also, he did serve he is serving on the Letting Library Foundation as well, and played a key role in a lot of what you see now in terms of the Letting Library. So I appreciate Mr. Hogan as well. Looking forward to the next poetry series. And third, last but not least, is Amanda McAdams. Amanda spearheaded the Milwaukie Passport. That's incredible, because that's been a pretty big deal, pretty hot thing. We actually ran out of the passports for a while. She's a member of DAM and poured her time into not just the success of the passport, but from design to outreach to distribution. So kudos to her for that. I know that was probably a huge undertaking and takes a lot of time. Amanda also has a social media presence that has given so much life to the communication channels between businesses and residents, which I think is very key. That's typically a communication gap that you normally see. So Amanda has helped close that gap just through her social media presence. And I thought this was really neat. She's a member of DAM, but she's not a business owner, but she exemplifies the concept of caring. So I think to put in that much time to see the business community, not just the residents, but the business community want to succeed, and to not be a business owner yourself, but know that you play a vital role in this community, in the success of these businesses, that's a pretty big undertaking, and I have to give her a ton of credit for that. So congratulations to all three of these nominees.
Thank you. I have two nominees, and they're kind of, I have Howie Oakes, who is a longtime nominee, and I have Lynn Porta, who is a newer person to engagement in Milwaukie, but both have made some great contributions to our city. So Howie Oakes has several claims to fame. He was on our comp plan advisory committee back in the day. He is the leader and organizer of the concert series in the Llewellyn, in the Ball Michelle Park, but for the Llewellyn NDA. He is the Llewellyn NDA treasurer and the focus of a lot of the nominations. He got several nominations, was about his work on the solstice event. I'm going to assume most people watching have been to the solstice event. It's a big event on our waterfront in December, around the Christmas ships. It existed before Mr. Oakes moved to Milwaukie, but when he came to Milwaukie and to the Llewellyn NDA, they had kind of, under a previous NDA chair, they had the monopoly on selling refreshments at the solstice event. And they used to just sell like hot chocolate and desserts and, and he decided it was time to up their game and bring on the chili and the hot dogs. And he masterminded how to cook and serve hundreds of hot dogs and gallons of chili, both vegetarian and meat, on both sides. And he even stores all the equipment that they use at his house between events. So a lot of the nominations were really focused on how much work the solstice event has been, and he and his wife have led it for a number of years, probably a decade or more. But a few other things were said about him. One is that people don't know is he's a big contributor to our climate work in Milwaukie, because he has built 2 homes himself. He was the general contractor and did a lot of the labor himself on Stanley Avenue that are both built to passive house standards. He is really, if I want to know something about a green building option or something I'm upgrading in my house, he's who I call to get advice. And one of his neighbors who moved near to him, moved across Johnson Creek from him a few years ago, said that, that he's a very quiet, self-effacing guy, but he brings new people to the NDA. He really is always about reaching out to neighbors and encouraging people to get involved in the NDA. And I wanted to quote from her. She said, "Our neighborhood is warmer, stronger, and more connected because of Howie." So that's Howie Oakes. And then Lynn Porta is a member of DAM, and she really came to my attention. I met her this past year when she was organizing the Halloween decorating contest in downtown. And I understand she also worked on the Christmas holiday decorating contest in downtown, and even spotlighted the need for some of the windows that are under construction or are not currently occupied by businesses, and trying to help them have some kind of holiday presence. And she did some kids art and some snowflakes, and she brought people together to make our downtown more festive, both for Halloween and for the December holidays. She is also a member of the Historic Milwaukie NDA, and she has a pollinator pathway project on the corner in front of Duffy's. So that's Lynn Porta. So my honor to recognize them both.
I have just one person to bring forward. Her name is Colleen Rockwell. And before you get on my case for just having one person, I want to point out that a third of the packet is dedicated to nominations of Colleen Rockwell. So many people wrote in. So I had to do a heck of a lot of work reading through all of them. And I have to say, okay. Colleen, I know you are, assuming you're watching, a little bit outside of this. And it's just been so fun to get to see all of these different perspectives of people who've worked with Colleen over the years, through all of her different venues of working in the city. I feel like I found out 10 different things about you from reading through this. I know you are a part of Rotary. You're the chair of the environmental committee. Environmentalism is really a theme throughout all of Colleen's work. I'm particularly fond of her work doing native plant gardens. Our Main Street bump out is something that was planted because Colleen really advocated for that. And I think our downtown is a great example of how you can have native plants woven in with like an urban fabric. And Colleen has really been the person pushing for that integration. She's helped with pollinator pathways throughout the city and really helping trying to build those pollinator gardens in a lot of different homes. And I know that as we talk about wanting more and more green space and more habitat for folks, Colleen is on the ground doing that work in our community. So I think that that was just really awesome to read about. And I have to say it all culminated this last year when we did Bee City USA. She was really pushing for us to get that dedication, nomination, officiation, whatever you call it. Colleen was a huge part in that movement to get us recognized as Bee City USA. Apart from all of this, on top of all of this work, she's with the Lake Road NDA as one of the co-chairs. So I've seen this in a lot of the Lake Road NDA meetings that I go to, does a really good job of bringing new people in. I mean, these NDA meetings are quite large, and the NDA is going through a real point of transition right now. They can't meet at Milwaukie Floral anymore, so they're trying to find their new home. And throughout all of that, I've seen Colleen just do a great job of welcoming new people in, changing meeting locations, keeping the group together. It's a hard transition, but I think that her work there has really been instrumental in helping keep that group tight-knit. So across all the work that you're doing, Colleen, really impressive. I'm so grateful that I get to bring your name forward for this nomination.
Well, the nominees that I have are 3 nominees. And the first of those 3 is Lane Rollins. And Lane, for several years, has managed the Ardenwall Neighborhood's August concerts. And he does everything from booking the bands to arranging the sound systems to provide great entertainment on those Thursday nights in August. And even before all of that hands-on work, he does a lot of fundraising with the business and everything like that to underwrite the events. It's kind of the highlight of the Ardenwall year with these events. He's also the arts representative on the Ardenwall District Neighborhood Association. And basically without Lane, these projects would not go forward because he has the connections to the musical acts. He has the fundraising acumen. It's a skill that not many of us have, going and asking strangers for money. And he has the organizational ability to pull it all together. So Lane has done a lot of great things for that seminal event in the Ardenwall neighborhood. My second nominee is Christina Thomas. We always comment when we have the Milwaukie High School Students of the Month come forward and all that they do. This is kind of like reading one of those. Christina, I don't know, how many days she has in her, how many hours she has in her day, but she's got more than I do. She's the chair of the Library Foundation, and she's been involved in the Linwood PTA as her children have gone through the school system, and she's been a fundraiser for the Milwaukie Mustangs, and she's been a chaperone for all the Linwood, the Rowe Middle, and Milwaukie High School events. She's active in the Linwood NDA Community Development Committee, and she supports the youth and safety of Milwaukie with an unwavering devotion to the city for the betterment of the community. She's been doing this for over a decade. You know, Christina just regularly volunteers at all things Milwaukie, including Milwaukie Pride, Juneteenth celebration, and other citywide events. She even organizes the games at the Linwood Barbecue Association. She values the community in her daily life, engaging wherever the community needs her. So I know Christine, a great person and a great volunteer for the city. The last of our nominees is Nancy Whitting. Nancy was a city staffer for a long time, working in the library. And when she retired from that, she immediately went to become the chair of the Friends of the Library. And I've spoken to you often in this dais about all the money that she spearheads raising for the outreach programs, specifically the children's outreach programs at the library. And she's done that for, I don't know, I think she's going on about 5 years. She's also on the library board. The work that they do, they've raised a lot of money that just makes so many of the library programs possible. I work with her on the quarterly book sale and that kind of thing. I have a lot of respect for her. And it's really kind of encouraging to see, volunteers across multi-generations, because Nancy's father is Ed Zumwalt. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that wraps up our nominees. Do you have further
I think
guidance
it's-
for us?
The next step, first of all, I just want to apologize for the imbalance. Next year, I will give Counselor Anderson 4. I'm just-
No,
just
no,
kidding,
whoa.
just kidding. That was my mistake, so I apologize for that again. Yeah, I think it's just time to do the vote using the online ballot that was created. If everybody's ready. I know this is.
Wants to vote for 6.
Yeah, the way you can vote up to 6 in terms of, it's ranked choice, so the system will let you do less, but this year I decided we'd just limit it to 6, make it a little bit easier instead of ranking all of them. That should still give us a winner.
And while you're voting, Josh thinks he tuned the mic, so I'm going to turn the speakers back on. But I'll have my hand over the button to mute it in case we get feedback.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Really?
Uh-oh.
We have a problem with election integrity here.
That's not good.
I've heard vote early and often, but I didn't actually do it this time.
It does show that there was 1 vote.
That was me.
Okay. That's odd. Okay.
Maybe you didn't vote for the right people.
Well, I just clicked on the link that was in the email, so if you clicked on it and voted first, then maybe that link shows that it's already been used? Or is this the
We
share
should
with
each
everyone?
have our-
Should be share with everyone.
I'll try and open it again.
This will know when one other person,
It took my vote. I just
Okay.
voted and it took my
Okay.
vote, so I think it's,
maybe just give it a try one more time.
have you already voted?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think I have 4.
You got my vote, Jason.
Thank you.
So
Well, it
it's just
looks,
that, right?
yeah, it may not make a
and then-
difference.
Just that.
Counselor Savage has been hacked. Her Dominion
It's
voting
really
machine's been
weird.
hacked.
It's not working.
Well, while she's figuring out her vote, I will just say that this is always a hard choice. Even picking 6 was hard. And if your candidate does not get selected, please feel free to nominate them again next year. It should not be seen as that they are not deserving. It's just this year is going to someone else. It's interesting, it's only showing us the top 2. It's not showing us the whole, however many we voted on. I thought last year it showed us like
Hmm.
everyone, but that's okay.
Did it submit? Okay.
Okay, so I will refresh then, because I'm only seeing 4
Okay.
votes. 5 votes cast, okay. So, yes. The winner of the 2025 Milwaukee Volunteer of the Year is Colleen Rockwell. So congratulations, Colleen. I know that Jason will bring you back at another meeting, and then this summer we will have our volunteer. Oh, here, we've got the details, so I'll let Jason.
Yeah, so the way we thank the winner, I'll definitely reach out to Colleen tomorrow. The dinner this year is on June 4th. I think we're looking to have it at the Elks Lodge, but we haven't actually like finalized that yet. There'll also
Oh,
be-
not a picnic this year?
We were trying to mix it up a little
Oh,
bit, so
okay.
do something a little different, but we're not finalized yet, so
Okay.
I'll let everyone know as soon as we do. Featured in the pilot newsletter in June, likely, as you can see, our other past winners there. Some social media posts. Yeah, and then I'll be back on May 5th to introduce Colleen. Hopefully she can make it. If not, maybe we'll move it to when she can. But yeah, I'll be back, and then at that point we can, you all can say thanks, and we'll take some nice pictures and all of that fun stuff, so.
Okay.
Thank you for going through this process again with me, and I'm glad
Oh.
this worked. I'm always a little bit nervous that it's not going to, so.
I do think the ranked choice voting is better than the old paper ballots where we often had to go through 2 or 3 rounds of voting, so,
I agree.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, so thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So, community comments. This is the part of the agenda during which the council will hear community comments on city business that is not on the agenda. Before we begin, is there follow-up from the February 17th comments, Mr. Brilio?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. There's no comments from the last meeting. Sorry, I'm just testing the feedback here. Sounds like it's heating up. No comments directly from last meeting. However, there's been tons of correspondence, I feel like, over the last week or two. I'm happy to address some of those if... That's all the aluminum I wear. I'm happy to address some of those comments if you want me to, Mayor. Okay, great. So for those keeping track, some of this is in your packet. I believe hopefully all of it by now, but we received some correspondence from Katie Schultz over in the Linwood neighborhood about Merle and opposition to Merle. And I just wanted to remind anyone out there that's interested in Merle, we're having that discussion at council regular session on March 17th. So there'll be more to come then. We had some folks write in about their concern, question, opposition to the processing fee. Staff has followed up with most of them. Obviously, Joanne Bird also commented, she's previously commented too about the need for e-check option for those utility payments. But we did follow up with Paul Meter and Brandon Malone, so those conversations are taking place between staff right now. We did receive some comments from Ed Williams of Harmony Park Apartments, and he had a concern or a frustration about the utility payment, or utility statements and how they're showing up now versus how they showed up several months ago. So the issue there is what you see today is it's not as detailed as what it once was. And part of the reason behind that is because the city's had 2 systems to work with utility processing payments. We had a system called BMS and we have a system called BMS and a system called Tyler Tech. And previously it's required our utility payers to use 2 systems and 2 platforms. So you'd have to use one BMS to sign in and look and view your statement. And then you have to go over to Tyler Tech to actually pay for your statement. So it's kind of a frustration we heard quite a bit. So in order to consolidate that issue, we moved everything over to Tyler Tech because that's integrated with our accounting system. unfortunately, Tyler Technologies doesn't provide the same level of detail on those statements. It provides detail,
And we have no flexibility to.
we can ask more. As I understand, it's been pretty hard to help them design it. But I did talk to our finance director, and if council wanted to talk more about that issue specifically around utility statements, then he's happy to come with a utility billing administrator, Amy, and have a chat. But that's the reason behind it. And they've also followed up with Mr. Williams, and he has his primary issue, as I understand, is also because he's got an apartment building, so it's a little bit more difficult to understand the breakdown, per unit breakdown. So they've been helping him with that.
So I guess my feeling is it would be valuable to have a conversation around that. I mean, we did, so on the complaint about the inability to use checks or to do payments from bank accounts, we were told that they were investigating more about what that would cost and would come back to us. So at whatever point the finance team is coming back on that, let's talk about both things.
Smash those together?
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Will do. Continuing right along, Teresa Breesaw, she wrote in just some comments about NCPRD. We can talk about that later, but no real reply as of right now from staff. Todd Weedman also provided some feedback on your council statement that just went out this month. No comment from staff about that, but that's the quick update and correspondence we've received.
Okay, and I also was hoping you could give a little update on an incident that
Yes.
happened on Harvey Street.
Yes, I have that in my notes, Mayor. I was gonna wait for our emergency agenda item or for the council reports at the end, just seemed
Okay,
like it was a little
okay,
outside this.
that's fine. That's fine. Great. Okay. We do have a yellow card, so for those in person who wish to speak, please submit a yellow comment card found on the table back there. If you are on Zoom, use the raise hand reaction to alert staff that you wish to speak, and when instructed to do so, click the microphone button to unmute yourself. If you are telephoning in through Zoom and would like to make a comment, dial *9 to raise your hand. You may also submit a comment via email to ocr@milwaukeeoregon.gov. Before you make your comments, please state your name and city of residence for the record. If you would like the city to follow up with you, please submit your contact information. As council has other business items on the agenda, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Because information provided during community comments may be new, this is not the time for discussion. The city manager will respond at the next meeting to comments that require follow-up. So the only yellow card I have is Mr. David Aschenbrenner.
I'm gonna try to unmute the mics again. I'll turn it off if it doesn't.
Okay.
feedback.
So hit the button so you get the red light.
Council, Mayor, I came down here for the proclamation and I figured I needed to do one other thing while I was here. And I am the Vice President of the Milwaukie Historical Society. And I want to thank you folks for the grant that we got from you to redo the siding and the windows of the museum. If you have not been out to the museum since we've done this, you need to come. It is so much better, so much safer. It looks great. Thanks to you and the people that have donated their time and their service. Our contractor donated a lot of stuff. The vendors provided a lot of discounts. I never thought we would get this done. I am also a past president of the society. I've looked at those old windows for so long and I just go, how do we get this fixed? And we were able to do it. We managed to pull all the strings with the contractors and everything else, and your folks providing the money that you've provided to us in the grant really helped us get over that lump. And I wanted to thank you very much. And if you haven't been out to the museum, Saturdays, 11 to 4, come on in, take a look around. We're doing the 250th anniversary of the country, so it's an interesting display that we put together. And once again, that's all I have to say. So thanks for.
Aren't you going to channel Greg Hemer and say the world's largest museum dedicated to the history of Milwaukie?
You're much better at doing that than I am. Greg, I think just left town. So, but yeah, It is, and it's a great little museum. We're always looking for people that want to be involved. We got projects to do. You'll see us out at the community doing booths and stuff at the different events, but it's always fun to come by and bring the kids. It's an interesting little display we've got going on right now, and I've been doing this for a number of years for the society, and it's once again, it's really a big thank you to be able to get the siding replaced and the windows replaced. We've got one more project, major project coming down the line, and that's the roof. And we're starting to work on the details on that. But once again, thank you guys very much for the grant that we got from the city.
Great, thank you. Okay, next we have the consent. Oh, do we have anybody online, Mr. Stauffer?
We do have a Zoom audience, but no hands raised.
No hands raised, okay. So we go on to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda includes minutes of the City Council February 3rd, 2026 work session and February 3rd, 2026 regular session. A resolution opting in to recreational liability limitations established in Oregon Revised Statute 105.668. A resolution acting as the local contract review board authorizing a contract with Century West Engineering Corporation for wastewater collections in engineering services. A resolution acting as the local contract review board reinstating a personal service agreement with FCS Group, a Bowman company for transportation system development charges, or SDC study services. Does any council member wish to remove a consent agenda item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. The consent agenda is approved unanimously. And we come to our first hearing of the night, or our first, I guess it's not technically a hearing, an adoption of revised public contracting rules, a resolution presented by our accounting and contract specialist, Kelly Tucker.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Tucker, Accounting and Contract Specialist out of the city's Finance Department. So as you mentioned, I am here tonight to request adoption of revised public contracting rules. A couple weeks back, I met with you, City Council, the February 17th work session to discuss the proposed changes being made to the city's public contracting rules. So I'm just back tonight. We had a good discussion then on certain points, but ultimately no changes were recommended at that time. So I wanted to recap tonight, just very briefly, what we discussed then as far as the significant changes being made. And then I'll open the floor back up for questions as well. So the city has for a long time has opted out of following the Department of Justice's model rules. And we actually choose and elect to develop our own public contracting rules. Our public contracting rules are a hybrid of Oregon Revised Statutes, specifically chapters 279, A, B, and C, as well as the model rules from Department of Justice. So we get this nice hybrid that's customized, that fits our organization. But with that, as changes in state law are made, we are then also required to update our public contracting rules so that we're compliant. It's been a few years since we last updated the public contracting rules. That was last done in July of 2023. Since that time, several laws have been changed, modified, adopted. So I am here before you tonight so that we can update our public contracting rules and make sure that we're staying in compliance. It's also a good opportunity for us to make administrative changes within the rules that talk about processes or procedures, and just provide some clarity for staff who might read through the rules and try to make sense of them. So again, just looking at kind of the significant changes at this point. For general updates and thresholds, we're just looking to do some general housekeeping. I don't know which one's easier to look at. and remove some repetitive references throughout the rules. So again, just some cleanup stuff. As far as thresholds go, we're looking to increase the intermediate procurement threshold from 150,000 to 250,000. This is an informal competitive process that we do. We're looking to increase the federal micro purchase threshold. Micro purchase is a non-competitive federal award from 10,000 up to 15,000. Proposing to increase the federal small purchase procurement method threshold, from 150 to 250,000. And the small purchase for federal is equivalent to our intermediate. It's an informal competitive process. Also proposing to increase the authorization threshold for directors to authorize surplusing personal property. So this would be city-owned equipment, vehicles, materials, furniture, et cetera, from 1,000 to 10,000. And this is purely to provide some administrative ease off the city or acting city manager, who ultimately authorizes all surplus at this point due to that low threshold. We are also proposing to remove a 5-year limitation that we currently have on any purchase of goods or services that are made off of price agreements. Removing this limitation will go a long way, especially with our information technology department, who relies on price agreements to purchase a lot of citywide software. But we'll still be able to purchase off price agreements. We just won't be limited to 5 years anymore, which is where we're currently at. And it makes it a little difficult to have to go find either another price agreement or do our own competitive process. For the formal competitive process for public improvements, we're really just looking to clean up and restructure the process steps and requirements between goods and services and public improvements. It's a little bit of a mix-up now. They're all kind of blended together. So the restructure will be done by creating separate rules in separate sections that detail the procurement requirements, one for goods and services and the other for public improvements. So staff can go to one rule and know exactly what they need to do without having to bounce around. We would also remove the general conditions for construction. That's currently our Exhibit B in our public contracting rules. And that would essentially be taken out and created into a standalone document that we would incorporate with solicitations and contracts, because ultimately what's in there is contract terms. Also with public improvements, there were some state law changes and some clarifications that we needed on our end and within our rules around retainage withheld on public improvement or construction projects. So we're going to update those requirements, and that's going to include the removal of interest-bearing escrow accounts, which are nearly impossible to secure, but then also ensuring that a contractor receives any applicable accrued interest on cash retainage that's withheld. And that should only happen if we as staff don't do our obligations timely. And that means releasing payments that are owed to the contractor within 30 days. If we don't hit that 30-day mark and we're still holding payment, they're going to start accruing interest, and then we owe that to the contractor. For equity in public improvement, we are proposing to add a requirement to invite at least one contractor who is certified with the State of Oregon's Office for Business Inclusion and Diversity, also known as COBID. And this would be on intermediate solicitations. So right now with intermediate solicitations, we are required to invite at least 3 qualified sources or contractors to bid or propose on our solicitation. We're asking that when one of those are requiring them that one of those contractors be a COBID business. Now with that, there might be instances where there is no COBID certified contractor that either provides that good that we're looking for, or provides that service. So we would also implement a process where staff could, after doing some due diligence, could request an exemption from this requirement. That keeps us compliant with our rules. It also gives the procurement team a kind of second step where we can go in and trust but verify to make sure we aren't missing a COVID certified contractor to invite. And then finally, electronic processes and then just miscellaneous. So we're proposing to just clarify throughout the rules the current use of the city's electronic procurement system. We use Bonfire. That's where we post our competitive solicitations, both intermediate and formal, as well as how we receive questions and submissions from contractors. We would also propose to add an option to publish advertisements electronically rather than in a printed newspaper. This will help staff move some projects along a little quicker. Sometimes we're waiting a few days before we can publish because we had to wait to meet a timeline of a printed publication. I think it's also a way that contractors are more likely to get the information and the notices of our solicitations. And that's it for kind of the significant changes. The other many minor modifications that were made throughout the red line version, I think it's attachment 1, 2 of the public contracting rules. That just provides for additional compliance with statute, some clarification, or just administrative ease throughout. So I just open the floor back up to City Council, who acts as our local contract review board. If you have any other questions or clarifications I can offer.
Any questions for Kelly? Yeah?
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that was
Making
a
it
lot.
too easy here.
It was a lot to dive through. I did want to ask one clarifying question. So the thing where we're removing the 5 years
Yes.
limitation on the way that we buy, can you describe what that purchase activity is like?
Yeah, absolutely. So price agreements or permissive agreements, it's allowed under state statute for us to purchase off of them. Usually what they are is the state of Oregon or another cooperative organization like, I know all the acronyms, I don't know if I know, but like NASPO or TIPS or Omnia Partners, Sourcewell is another cooperative organization. They, as the organization, will publish in partnership. They'll usually find like a lead agency, a lead public agency, to post a competitive solicitation for goods or services. Then for us, like City of Milwaukie, if we're members of that cooperative organization, like we are a member of the Oregon Purchasing Program through the state of Oregon, we're members of all those other cooperative organizations. As members, we can then enter into our own contract without our own subsequent procurement process with whichever contractor was awarded off the competitive price agreement or off the competitive solicitation that was done by that organization. So it just gives us a resource to kind of immediately find and contract with a contractor for goods or services without us having to do our own competitive process, but yet a competitive process was still done to enter into that award. And right now, in our public contracting rules, we have a limitation of 5 years. And I think I mentioned in the work session, it is the City of Milwaukie and the City of West Linn who continue to have this 5-year restriction. It's not state law. And I don't know the history of why it was put there.
So is the 5 years, like you say the state comes out with this, has done its solicitation and it publishes this list and you can buy, whatever software. Is the 5 years the limit from the day they list it, or it's the limit from when we buy it or something?
So usually when the cooperative awards the contract, it'll be for a 5-year term. That's pretty standard. That's usually what we see. For us, when we go to purchase it, if like software, for example, we can purchase as long as we're not going beyond when the end of the price agreement is. So we sometimes run into that too. Maybe we can only get 2 years, even though it's maybe going to be in place for 2.5 years. If it's goods, that's not as much of an issue because it's kind of a one and done, right? We make the purchase, we get our goods, and we've paid them, and it's over. But yeah, software, services, the consultant that we use for our records management system is off of a price agreement, and we are running into kind of a brick wall with that too, right? Like we had to find a kind of a creative way around it. which is not ideal, but it's this limitation that's holding us back. And really what it is too is if, like, especially for the case of software, we can always go find another price agreement and purchase off of that. But for IT, the bouncing around and the research and working with somebody new, even if it's like a pass-through purchase to like a third-party reseller to purchase software through, it's a lot of work on staff to
Okay.
just, because then if not, then I'm hounding them, right, to make sure that we're compliant. So does that help a little bit?
Yep, that helps. That helps clarify. Thank you. All right, if no more questions for Kelly, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution acting as the local contract review board, repealing existing public contracting rules and adopting revised public contracting rules.
A second.
It's been moved. It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution acting as the local contract review board, repealing existing public contracting rules and adopting revised public contracting rules. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It passes unanimously. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, next item, Emergency Management and Resilience Framework, presented by our Climate and Natural Resources Manager, Katie Gavaris, and Emergency Management and Resiliency Coordinator, Marta Pateni.
Yeah, hey, Mayor, I'm gonna jump in real quick
Okay.
as they get set up. And let me get in between council members right now. No, thank you. We're talking emergency management resiliency framework in a second. I just think it's a good time to note that just a few days ago, so last week on Wednesday, we had a little bit of an emergency in the city, and I apologize for not getting this information to you until now. There was a gas line that was hit as part of the Harvey street project between Harvey and 36th, and there was so the gas was going, and they had to do emergency shutdown, didn't need evacuation. By the time we received information from the county, it kind of had already been cleaned up, so it was pretty quick as far as the wrap up. But we've learned a few things, and obviously Katie and Marta, feel free to jump in, or Peter, if I miss anything. We're learning a few things. First is how we coordinate with our partners, the Clackamas Fire District, as well as the county, as well as we internally.
Well, and our contractor, right? It was
Yeah,
our contractor
yes, exactly,
who
yes.
punctured
Yes,
the.
you beat me to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so also the internal communications, especially when there's our contractor on site. So we have a meeting in the near future to kind of talk through some of those. But what I'm excited about for tonight is, Marta's here, Buonasera. It's good to see you. It's your first meeting. And the muscle that she provides, as well as Katie, the leadership that you provided, and Peter, shout out to you as well. We're creating more of a muscle around resiliency and emergency management. We didn't have this. So I'll tell you the good news is that they were the first people to receive the notice. So the system is kind of working, but it certainly can work better. So we're learning. This is part of the conversation. If I missed anything, feel free to jump in, but glad you're here tonight. Look forward to hearing it.
Thank you. I don't have much to add. It was very quick. It's about 40 minutes from start to finish. And by the time we heard about it and were able to pass on the information, it was all resolved. And so I do think we're continuing to improve that communication, just like Joseph said, with the county. They provide the direct communication to all the folks in that 300-foot evacuation radius. And so the county sends that out through their Everbridge communication platform. And those are pre-dialed messaging, very short, that tells, it's like the Ready, Set, Go framework. And so they had that message programmed, and then that was sent out. And so that communication happened immediately. And we're working internally of like, how do we not only improve the communication when it's happening, but also how do we improve the community public education after the event, and how do we talk about that?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I got asked about this on Sunday and I had no idea. I was like, what? Because there was also an issue apparently with the contractor or someone sending people who were trying to evacuate into a cul-de-sac where they were stuck. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. So, please, oh, sure.
Do we know what happened? I mean, did the contractor not use the locating service, or was it just a mistake in the excavation? Do we know what happened?
That is a good question. I don't know exactly what happened. And I know that our engineering project manager does know, and we can follow up with that information, unless Joseph or Peter, you know specifically.
No, I mean, no, I don't have all the details as part of the communication, so.
Well, just for those who don't know, when you do these kinds of operations, typically a contractor will use a subcontractor for locations, and they mark it, you know, so that these lines aren't hit. It usually works pretty well, but sometimes either the location service is not used or not called in, or the locations of the lines are not correct or something like that, and these kind of things can happen. So that's just the reason for my question.
Appreciate that. We'll get more details.
And just to follow up, like we've been trying to schedule like an internal like after action review of this, and we've just had some challenges with schedules. So we've had to like do some multiple rescheduling of this internal meeting with our engineering team and our emergency management staff to sort of work out like what happened, what can we do better next time, and how can we communicate with the public. But I will say, by the time that we got notice from the county, it was, and saw the email, it was already done, right? So it was done. There was an evacuation notice sent out, and then it had been resolved, and all clear was already noticed to the affected parties. So it was really quick. Fortunately, nothing serious, and it's really good that the contractor, as you were saying, Councilor Massey, they do good. They are responsible to do the locates. The locates are actually the responsibility of, when they're called in, it's the responsibility of the utility to make sure that they're marked correctly. And sometimes it's a challenge to make sure things are marked. When you're looking at underground things, it can be a challenge. We often, I won't say often, but we do have issues with our internal utilities from time to time that are mismarked, and they'll get damaged during construction. So it can be a challenge to locate underground utilities from time to time, for sure.
Counselor?
Yeah, sorry not to have questions so far, but we're just now, I didn't know, we're just now hearing about this. So my question is, when did this happen?
This happened last Wednesday.
And why is the council only hearing about it now?
Yeah, that's my fault.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like you, Joseph.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that's a big deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, if nothing else on that, we will turn it over to Katie and Marta for the main reason that they're here today.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor, Council President, council members, for having us here tonight. Before Marta gets into all the fun stuff, I wanted to back up. I think Joseph provided kind of the really great framework for kind of how the city has continued to prioritize our emergency management over the last year. And Marta joined us 6 months ago, and she joined the Climate and Natural Resources Division located in Public Works. And this helped strengthen not only our emergency response protocols, especially as we experience increasing impacts from climate change in addition to other emergencies that come up. But it also helps us really center and prioritize the preparedness and resiliency that's embedded into our climate action plan and some of the actions there. And so helping us really dive into those actions and strategies. And so I'm going to turn it over to Marta to walk us through kind of the work that she's done to compile all of the different goals and priorities that the city has set and kind of package it into this framework.
Thank you, Katie. Hi, everybody. Really excited to be here tonight. And as Katie was mentioning, the hope for the evening is, let's see if this works. Scott, just this. Should I use the?
There you go.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Yes, the goal for tonight is to be able to establish a shared understanding of the city emergency management structure. And specifically, we would love to have you review and discuss the emergency management framework that I'm going to show you all in a few minutes, and also focusing on the key goals and key action items and define priorities and potentially identifying gaps. So the graphics that you see here on the screen and also printed here, it's kind of the work that I've been doing in a lot of the past 6 months. So it has been about reviewing the existing documents and plans that the city had and kind of organizing all this information and resources. So at the core of this graphic, there is the City of Milwaukee community vision that comes from the comprehensive plan. The diagram is organized in 3 concentric circles. The first one being about resiliency goals. So we will dive in more details in just a little bit, but that's kind of like the goals we're aiming for. We then have a second circle that is currently focusing on current status, which means identifying gaps and opportunities for those specific goals. And then the last circles, the one in orange, is about future actions. So kind of like where we're heading, and the hope is that they can spread kind of like branches of a tree. These circles are also split in 4 main quadrants, as you can see, that follow the emergency management cycle. So we do have mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So in this way, I've been trying to basically organize all the information that I was finding, and it really helped me visualize and understand where the gaps were. So you're welcome then to come closer to the Word 2 and read more. There's a lot. But what we're gonna go through now is basically like the key goals and key priorities that we are focusing now in relation to emergency management. And so here we go. So specifically around the mitigation, goal 1 is really focused on ensuring that the city built environment and infrastructure are adequately prepared for natural disasters. And I also wanted to mention that many of these goals and many of these actions are not just being drafted out of nowhere, but it really comes from existing plans like the natural hazard mitigation plan, the comprehensive plan, and all the other plans that we have. And I've just been like going through them and making sure the language was aligned and we were able to condense and compact all the information in this framework. And so with this goal in mind, one of the action items is, for example, to track progress of existing natural hazard mitigation plan action items, and also designing new solutions that focus on hazard mitigation. And then the second one will be also to further develop community resilience hubs. And we are in the process of defining what that means, but the Leading Library is a good example. So it could be, for example, it could mean to add like a generator or a battery storage for solar, to be able to enhance the capacity of that facility to work as an emergency resilience hub. Another core goal about mitigation has been to coordinate the natural hazard related climate change action items through the Milwaukie Climate Action Plan. So in terms of action, that means aligning the climate resilience and the disaster goals together, identifying synergies and conflicts. And specifically for that, we have been also looking at the grant opportunities. So working closely with Katie and the team to see where that overlap might be. And that includes like green infrastructures, nature-based solutions, but also talking about like electrification and building decarbonizations and so on. As we move from mitigation to preparedness, one big goal has been focusing on increasing outreach and education for hazard awareness and natural disaster preparedness with a focus on vulnerable populations. And again, you can see here when there is the asterisk is that this goal comes from the natural hazard mitigation plan, but is also mentioned in the Momentum strategic plan. And as part of that goal, as a core action we currently have is to expand the CERT recruitment, training and coordination, and also increase city outreach and disaster preparedness education for low-income, elderly, non-English speaking, and other vulnerable populations. A lot of this has been also working closely with the CERT team that has been grown a lot, and now we have 51 members, and really making sure that their effort in disaster preparedness is targeting those vulnerable groups. So for example, when they do tabling events, when they do outreach, making sure that they are focusing on those population, and also we're able to document and get that demographic information. We're also focusing on developing a GIS emergency response plan that can have all those different layers that look at social vulnerabilities, but then also hazard risk across the different type of hazards, and then emergency response. So, for example, the CERT team has what they call the routes of responsibilities, which will be identified path through Milwaukie to be able to reach reach neighbors and check on them. And so we're making sure that those routes specifically address the needs of retirement homes and other vulnerable facilities. Another goal within the preparedness sector is about establishing regular emergency response drills and trainings for city staff. As an action under that goal, we have identifying key employees designated to support the city emergency response and documenting their skills and trainings and certifications. And I think this type of work closely is now closely aligned with the creation of standard operating procedures for different type of hazards. So we are looking at creating like a contact list and making sure that we have the information of staff that will be called in case of an emergency. These also closely tied to the emergency operation plan that it's pretty outdated. It's from 2012, the current one, but the hope is to review these and make sure that with that update, we also have a set of trainings that come for all city staff. As we move from preparedness to response, goal 4 is about outlining the city emergency response framework across different types and scales of emergency situations. So a big part of my work has been to formalize incident level activation thresholds and escalation protocols. And in just a few seconds, we will talk about what are those levels and what are those thresholds. Also, as I was saying, focusing on updating and modernize the city emergency operation plan that is pretty outdated. Focusing on creating an SOP for winter's weather response, and making sure that not only public's work, but also different folks across different departments are included in these SOPs, because we know that we might need at one point IT to potentially support, or we might need folks at the library also play such a big role during emergency response. So just making sure this is a citywide type of conversation. And then we are also in the process of updating the water emergency response plan. So there is just like a lot of updates that are coming, a lot of documents that actually needs to be updated every 4 or 5 years. So we're taking that as an opportunity to have these conversations across departments. And feel free to interrupt me at any point, ask questions. And this can be a lot. Okay. Any questions? So this is just a very quick overview of that emergency framework that I was talking about and how we are currently talking about incident levels and thresholds. So we use the National Incident Management System and its levels. And there are 3 main levels. I added level 0, which is technically a non-emergency. So this is the case when the Public Works Director considers the event just routine for the department. And that could be like light snow or something that can be very well handled within the Public Works Department. From there, we escalate to level 1, which is a routine crisis management. And that's when different folks and different departments at the city might be activated, but we're still going to be able to handle the incident internally. Level 2, it's when we start to need assistance from outside agencies. And so that might be the county, might be the Red Cross, but basically the event has escalated and we can't handle with our resources and capacity anymore. And then level 3 would be just a major incident. We can think about the Cascadia earthquake, for example. And then at that point, we will have like a unified command structure with the county, and it would be just a very different type of emergency to deal with. But basically now, as we talk about the atmospheric rivers, the gas leak, we always refer to these incident levels, and we talk internally about activation and making sure that everybody is also across the city is up to speed on what decision has been made and what does that mean, basically. Right. Talking about response, also we have this goal, which is about improving and obtaining resources and equipment essential for responding to and recovering from disasters. Again, this goal also is coming from the natural hazard mitigation plan. And this really focuses on identifying and distributing resources throughout the city for responding to different type of hazards. It also means to coordinate with Clackamas County, other cities, and other relevant partners, different resources and sharing of equipment. We have a strengthened the worker agreement signed with the county, which means that we might be able also to borrow and lend workers if there is like a road disruption. And so it just focuses on that type of resource sharing, basically. And then thinking about recovery and also at the intersection with response, as a goal number 6, we have to develop a continuity of governance plan for the city and also looking at developing, or in this case, updating continuity of operations, a co-op plan for businesses. We do have a co-op document, but that's also from 2012. So we're looking at updating that as well. Okay, so this was kind of all the, a little summary of the work that's been done so far and some of the priorities that we have been focusing on and actions that we're looking towards.
You end here with 6, but up there you have a 7.
Yes, sorry, and that's because number 7 is actually here. It's still in the mitigation, but it kind of closes the loop of emergency management. So I think it works better in this type of diagram where it is a circular. And so I just call it out there, but it's still within the mitigation section of the diagram.
Okay, thank you. I think Councilor Khosrowshahi was up first.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. My question is, applying it, right? Like kind of seeing how that would that work. And let's take a recent example. I won't use the gas line because that was like a 30-minute thing. I'll use the atmospheric rivers, right? Because there were some level 2 notifications that were sent out by the county. How are we getting this information to our residents? Are we depending solely on the county to get this information out? And the level 1, 2, 3, is that an internal thing for staff to recognize, or is that something that we're gonna be letting residents know, hey, we're at level 2? How does that
Yes.
work?
So to answer your first question around communication, a lot of the communication does come from the county, and we rely a lot on the county for messaging, opting messages, what Katie was talking about that also happened with the gas. It's all done through the county. And they also coordinate with the National Weather System, the National Weather Service about like TV, radio, and that type of communication. So what they do is basically they send us a draft message and they have a very time sensitive, they need a very time sensitive response to that, and we approve it or not approve it. What we do, which has been really exciting internally, has been more working on social media. So as a city, but also PD specifically, they have their own channels. So we've been able to share there and share on the website. So I think there are these multiple levels of communication that has been they've been kind of like complementing each other. But yes, the main messaging I would say comes from the county.
So I guess, I appreciate that. I don't know if this is too much to ask, but could we kind of run through what that would look like in the atmospheric river as an example from the response? Like, what does the response look like? Like, let's say we're at that level 2 and it's like, get ready, and what's the city's response?
Yes, so let's say we get the notification from the county. We will be monitoring internally the weather for sure, and we've been attending the National Weather Service briefings, but then the county will say, we are activated at level 2, and we are sending out this information to these residents that are in the flooding area. They send the drafted message, Emma and Katie and Peter review it, and we say yes. And so then we know that message is out. And then at that point is when we also internally, we share information across departments and say we are internally at this level. So for example, for the atmospheric river, the county was activated at level 2, but we were ultimately activated at level 1. The state was activated at level 3. So it's more, I think, internal, depending on which organizations or which agency is managing the event at their scale. And so then, yes, we share that information internally, basically. And we did not share with residents. I don't think it's ever shared with them which level we are at, just because there is additional knowledge I think that you need to have about what are the incident levels, what do they mean, to be able to provide that level of detail, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then at what point, like, so is assistance with evacuation a response that the city is going to provide? Or no?
Potentially.
Okay.
I mean, it potentially could be, but I think the framework that Marta and Katie have been talking about, the preparedness, response, and recovery mitigation, that sort of factors into how we also react with our staff. As we get notice, like with the atmospheric river piece, we start to go out and prepare to like, can we mitigate some of the things ahead of time by, going out and cleaning catch basins and things like that. Our stormwater crew will go out there and do that and clear off catch basins and make sure that, we don't have anything that's going to further exacerbate flooding on streets. We'll set up our sandbag station, make sure that it's fully stocked and send those notices out to our public information officer to make sure those things get on the website. And then, the response when it actually does happen, I think the last time, we were fortunate. There was some minor flooding, but we had staff, on-call staff that, responded to closed streets when, on a couple where the bridge was getting, the water was getting to the level where it could impacted the bridge. Actually, the county made it out there, but we had on-call staff that was available, and we're out.
Was that on Johnson Creek you're talking
On
about?
Johnson Creek,
Yeah.
and I think it was on 55th actually is what the county ended up shutting that bridge down. But we had staff going out there and monitoring the situation and looking we pre-position equipment in case of a power outage, generators at our pump stations, and we have crews out there monitoring those pump stations, our wastewater pump stations, because when you have additional wet weather, that impacts our collection system. We're pumping a lot more water, and we want to make sure that we're able to handle it. So we're out there responding to those types of things.
So when you, I just want to ask a follow-up and then I'll go back to you. When you say the county was at 2 and we were at 1, is that because, I mean, in this case, it could be different because of different levels of the waterways? Like we know in Estacada, they had quite more serious situation than we had. Is that why there would be a difference there?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. They were just managing different cities type of emergencies, and there was just a higher level for them to manage than expected. So they decided to escalate to level 2, and they had the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, activated. And so they decided to, I think for a couple of days, they were level 2, and then they went back to level 1.
Okay. And I do just want to say for anybody watching this and going, oh my God, am I on this list? The police department's website has emergency alerts and tells you how to sign up for Clackamas County public alerts. So if you're not signed up, every once in a while, the police department or the city does some, some promoting of that for people to get signed up, but definitely sign up if you're not signed up already.
Yeah, and the reason I asked and thanks for asking about the levels, that's a good one. And the reason I asked about the assistance and evacuation is because a lot of times the first one, when they do tell you to go, the first community members that are the ones going are the ones with disabilities or mobility issues. They're the ones that get the head start. What do we do? What is the city, like, how are they getting out? Are we providing that? Is the county providing that? Like, how are those individuals that have those issues? Is that something that this is going to focus on? Is like, how are we going to evacuate the people that need?
I think that's certainly something that we're going to look to make improvements on. I do know with the atmospheric river events that happened in December, there was some specific concern around houseless communities that were along the Johnson Creek corridor. And, I think there were some additional efforts that were made to try to go out and check to see if, people that were out there were aware that flooding was coming, right? So both the county and our police department participated in that effort.
Thank you.
Councilor Stavanger?
Thank you. I have a couple questions that are just grouped in 3 topics. I'm going to try and make them fast. The first one has to do with resilience hubs. You had mentioned using existing infrastructure and adding some resilience equipment to that. I wonder if you are also considering some of the services and programming for vulnerable populations that need to be layered onto those spaces. So like at the library, they have existing services that happen regularly for houseless individuals or unhoused individuals. And I think that in addition to planning for generator or, grid support, that we should be looking at some of that safety net support and what we can mobilize. So just friendly suggestion on that one. And you may already be thinking of this, so apologies if you are. That's not really a question. Are you already thinking of that?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful, and thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, again, going back to the vulnerable populations, we're really focusing on making sure we approach all these different efforts through equity lens and making sure those most in need are prioritizing this type of thinking and implementation of these ideas. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think that the thinking around resilience hubs and what they consist of has really evolved, especially in the last couple of years. And so I think that well positions us at the forefront of that thought. And I don't know if there's support funding still available at the state level, but there were some grants at one point for resilience hubs. And so if there is additional funding, then I would recommend that we try and reach out for that. The other thing that came to mind was training and what sort of training is provided to responding staff to be specialized in some of these responses that we might be able to assist with.
Yes, different type of trainings, I would say. There is for sure like the basic FEMA intro level that can just provide like knowledge and an understanding of, for example, what are the incident levels and what does it mean when we activate them. And then I think as we look more specifically at different type of hazards or different type of emergencies, like water emergencies, we have a staff that is specifically trained in like SCADA, I believe is the system that they use. So they know, they're very specialized in that. And so there will be training for those type of emergencies that won't be covered by all stuff, but just.
And then I assume that when the county does, activation trainings, that our staff would be included in that at not just a jurisdictional level of like, how do we communicate out to cities, but rather what that integrated response looks like?
Yes, we are actually gonna be participating in the Mount Hood Great Escape exercise in May. That is looking at, it's a 2-day tabletop exercise where there is this simulated scenarios of the wildfire spreading. And so we are, looking at how we can start to build that muscles and what does it mean for us internally, but also then how we are gonna be coordinating with the county and thinking about evacuation routes and all of that. And then there is also an exercise actually next week with the consortium and the county focused on the water. So also in that case, that we will be simulating water pollution incident basically and thinking about that response.
Okay.
So
Wonderful.
there are great opportunities, yes, at the county and state level for that.
A long time ago, when I worked for Clackamas County, I got to coordinate the emergency response center connection with ham radio operators. And I know that there are a lot of those in our community who are already connected through CERT. But when we're in a situation of, a major event where cell phones are unreliable, I think it's really helpful training for us to be thinking about how we activate those amateur radio users and their information dissemination out into neighborhoods. The county may not always build that into their tabletop exercises, but I think it should be something that's on our mind, given how close to the fault line we are. Okay, speed round, last series, last little grouping of questions. This question focuses around the shared response activations that we have and when we activate staff to respond to an emergency, and what the after action reimbursement looks like, whether that is a FEMA event, because the reimbursement timeline for that can take a really long time. And there may be cost implications for us to kind of float that in the short term. But for smaller events, or in the event that Clackamas County does not apply for reimbursement, then how are we planning for that resource, to refill that resource locally? And I'm thinking to not the last batch of ice storms, but the really, really bad batch before that, where there were trees down everywhere. And that was devastating to a number of communities on a number of levels. But in that instance, Clackamas County made a political statement to say that they would not seek reimbursement from the state for assistance for that emergency response. And so I think that had we activated to assist in situations, in our community and in other areas of the county where trees were down and people needed resources, we would have been left out on a limb, not being able to access that reimbursement because the pathway for that is the county through an application with the state. So I'm just wondering if that's part of the question or the conversation in the concentric circles, and if not, can we include that?
Yes, it is part, and we haven't fleshed that out yet, but I think it's such an important point to raise as we talk about after action activities and what does it look like from a funding perspective, for sure. Thank you.
Councilor Massey.
thank you for this. I think this is long overdue that we've starting to get really serious about this. But I got to tell you, that chart scares me. And really, it scares me because it has the potential for building an administrative framework that, you know, could collapse on itself. And I'll just take the training issue that Councilor Stavanger just mentioned. And, you know, say just take the 50 members of CERT, and there's 20 potential trainings that we have. Well, that's 1,000 individual, you know, learning elements, you know, that people would go to if you said everybody's got to go through it. And so I would caution against overtraining and over certification. I think that you have to have some level of flexibility and backup in case someone's not around to fulfill a position, but you can't have 50 people trained to be the incident commander. And so I just urge you to, you know, approach that, you know, with some caution, because you can build in a system that's just unwieldy that you just can't keep up with. And so that's just a cautionary note, because I've seen this before, and you just have to be careful. The other thing we really haven't talked about it, but it's kind of in the back of everybody's mind, is the big one, you know, the Cascadia event, you know, that when the New Yorker article came out in 2015, it scared everybody to death, and for good reason, you know. But at the same time, I don't think there's a realization about what the projections are throughout the state. And, you know, if you look at the coast, it's going to be like a disaster movie, okay? All of those worst case scenarios are possible on the coast. But as you move inland, it becomes attenuated. And the state actually has what's called a shake map. It's publicly available. And, it's color coded, you know, as you go from the ocean inward, and, there's bands. And it tells you what you can actually expect in each one of those bands, you know, about, you know, tsunami, building collapse, et cetera, et cetera. Once you get over to our area, it actually says furniture may scoot across the floor, window frames may fall off the wall, but, you know, chimneys aren't collapsing, roofs aren't falling in. And so I just think that there's a lack of knowledge about what, you know, the real projections are in our area, because, you know, they read the New Yorker article or whatever, and they think, it's going to be Armageddon. It's going to be bad, but it's not going to be certainly as bad as the coast. That's just an aside that I throw in, that I think that there just needs to be some reality thrown into this about what we can expect in these various scenarios. I think actually the wildfire situation is our worst case scenario.
Do you have anything you want to?
I was looking over the staff packet before this, and it said, provide council recommendation on prioritization. I think you've got a lot of stuff there. Frankly, I think I'll take your direction on where you think we should prioritize our efforts. But I see Councilor Massey's point. There's a lot of work here that you're taking on. And I'm glad that we've got someone to be able to take point on all of this. It's going to be a heavy lift. I really think that as you're doing this, engaging with our CERT teams locally will be really important. They're excited about this work, wanting to be a part of the table, and I appreciate the extent to which you've already done some of that incorporation.
So I will say I am super excited by this whole conversation, because in 11 years of being on this council, we haven't really seriously taken this on. I mean, we had some activity in 2020 around the wildfires that year. There is, I think, an after action report from that if you haven't seen it, that the county did, that might be useful to look at. But it's really great to have someone doing this as really their focus. I look forward to what I can learn in this, because unlike Councilor Massey, I've heard all about the liquefaction zone along the Willamette River, and I'm not sure it's just shaking furniture and fire. I mean, I happen to live along the Willamette River, so I do look forward to learning more about where our risks are in the city as you dive further into this. I had two other things I just want to make sure you knew, which when you're talking about resilience hubs, this new Spring Creek Early Learning Center on Monroe at 224 has gotten PGE funding for a resilience hub there. So they're going to have solar and battery storage to support the families. And I think their hope is to support the community in a broader way. So you definitely want to have conversations with them. And when you're talking about the mapping of vulnerable populations and stuff, the North Clackamas Parks and Rec District just finished up their system plan. And in the course of that work, their consultants did a fair amount of that kind of mapping. And if you look at the system plan itself, what it shows you is not very fine grained, but there might be, there's like 200 pages of appendices documents, and there might be in those appendices some more useful fine-grained mapping, and if not, maybe they would actually give it to us, even if it's not online. So I just wanted to recommend those two pieces of potential help with your work, and otherwise, awesome. Super, I am scared by that as well. And I'm glad you didn't put it in here because I would have gone crazy trying to read it on the screen. But it's great that you're doing, I mean, that you're really kind of diving in a deep way. So it's very exciting. Anything else from anybody else? Okay, well, thank you.
Mayor, if I may, just to forego the self-inflicted wet blanket that started this agenda item, I do want to just give the shout out because this team has been doing incredible things. I think Marta has been here for 2.5 months, maybe?
6 months.
It's been, 2.5 plus 4. It feels like it hasn't been that long. And I know you have a little one, so I just am impressed by what we've been able to accomplish and giving us a framework to look through. But I do take your, Councilor Massey's, your comments to heart, because I think the city of Milwaukie we have a tendency to we punch above our weight. We like to say we take a big bite off of the apple, however you want us to phrase it. So right-sizing this or just making it realistic for us is well taken. So just excellent work. Just thank you for what you've done.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And with that, we will take a break before we go to we don't have anything else before the TSP, right? We go right into, yeah. So we're going to, pardon? Nope, we're taking a break. We're taking a break. Come back at 25 till, I guess, by that clock up there. Yeah. All right, we are back on the record for the main event tonight, the adoption of the updated Transportation Systems Plan, 2 years in the making. The public hearing on the proposed updated TSP adoption is called to order. The purpose of this hearing is to hear the staff report, take public comments, deliberate, and consider adopting the updated TSP. Does any council member wish to announce actual or potential conflicts of interest? Seeing none, does any council member wish to report any ex parte contacts regarding this hearing action? I'm just curious, as a legal matter, I didn't think ex parte contacts mattered when it's a type 5 thing, right? Okay. So with that, I will turn it over to Community Development Director Laura Weigel, City Engineer Jennifer Garbely, and Senior Planner Ryan Dyer.
Hello, thank you all so much. And also I'd like to just introduce, you've met them before. We've got Matt Hugart and Amy Griffin from Kittleson, who have been our consultants on the project throughout this. And I just want to say, yes, 2 years in the making, but I was looking back over my notes, and the first time I came to council for this was when we were talking about applying for the grant. That was in May of 2021. So we are 5 years into this. So I am hoping that we've done a lot of work. You all have done a lot of work. You've sat up here on the dais and gone through all of this information with us. And so I'm really happy to be here tonight. And I feel like we've all come to a good place, and there's been a lot of engagement, a lot of involvement with the Planning Commission, with you all, with the community. So I'm really happy to be here tonight. And I thank ODOT for being a partner. That made me just go back to when we got a grant from them for $350,000 to start this project off. And so they've been a major part of our planning team throughout the process. And with that, we'll just go through kind of an overview of where we are, how we got here, so that anybody who is listening there can get kind of exposed to what this plan is all about and the process that we went through to get here tonight. It's very exciting. Okay, so we're going to talk about the community engagement that we did, a little bit about how the plan was developed, looking at exploding, whatever it is, expanding the modal classifications above and beyond just vehicle classifications, looking at the transportation investments, our plan for what we want to try to build over the next 20 years, and how we'll measure our progress in the future, and then a little bit about some of the other development code that we needed to change and update as part of this process to make sure that our standards are in line with our new TSP. So how did we get here? How did we develop this plan? So basically, we started out and we had the project team with our consultants, and then we developed every single thing. Like, you've got the appendix, you see the appendices, it's quite large. We developed this throughout the 2 years that we worked with our project management team, and all of these appendices went to the technical committee, and they went to the advisory committee, and they went out to the community. They went to planning commission, and then they went to city council. And so everything that's been here has been vetted through kind of a process, making sure that we're talking to everybody all along the way about what's in the plan. And then we've got the TSP advisory committee that was very intentionally formed at the beginning of this project. We had 19 people on the committee in a kind of a different range of different backgrounds and interests and experience related to transportation. We had folks from the Public Safety Advisory Committee. We had folks from every neighborhood, the Planning Commission, the Equity Steering Committee, the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee, and the Business and Freight Community. So we had a wide representation throughout the 2 years that we worked with that group of going through all of this materials together as a team and talking through all of the information and helping everybody understand what we were trying to, and help them shape what we were trying to do with the transportation system plan. We also had a technical committee. That's a very important part of this process as well. So like I said, we had the Oregon Department of Transportation. We had the Department of Land Conservation and Development on the team, Metro, Clackamas County, TriMet, Clackamas Fire, North Clackamas School District, and Portland General Electric. They also saw all of the same materials and provided information back to us about what they were doing as with their own jurisdiction or their organization, and kind of feeding that into our update. And then we took all of the same information out to the public, and we did that kind of at very specific times, because so much of the work is pretty highly technical. So we tried to have really useful times to talk to the public and give them things that they could understand and process and get their teeth into. We really did focus too. One of the biggest things on throughout this process was to look at the underserved populations. And so we did a series of focus groups at the Wichita Center, Hillside Manor, and we did a session with the BIPOC and Spanish group, and also the Equity Steering Committee. We also did a lot of tabling events to try to get people interested in the TSP and guiding them to looking at our materials and participating in the project when there were opportunities that arrived. So we sat at some tables across the couple of years that they were out there. We also had a really robust Engage Milwaukie page that had a lot of information on it. We ran articles in the pilot, and we also did a bunch of social media posts, and we also attended some NDA meetings. So we really wanted to ensure that we had everybody that this TSP impacted at some point at the table to weigh in and talk about what was important to them. And I do think that we were successful in talking to a lot of people and having really robust feedback from folks. And with that, I will hand it over to Ryan to talk about the framework.
Hello, everyone. So Laura was talking about just sort of the public engagement that we did through the process, and also that core framework of review of producing materials and then vetting it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, Matt and Amy are going to talk a little bit about project development, which is obviously that sort of core key outcome of the transportation system plan. The most exciting part is what should we be building or improving in our transportation system. And I'm going to talk about sort of the analytical or process that we use to come up with those projects. So just wanted to start by pointing out that we are not planning in a vacuum. There are rules at the state level, at the regional level. We have neighboring jurisdictions that also make transportation decisions that influence how transportation happens in our jurisdiction. And so as we were going through the process, I just wanted to point out that we were constantly sort of vigilant about those other jurisdictions and their efforts. And as Laura said, those jurisdictions were represented on our technical committee. So constantly engaging with those folks. And I guess before moving on from this slide, just most notably and impactful for our project was and I know I've in various capacities talked about this before, this body before, but the state updated its transportation planning rule recently. So through the climate friendly equitable communities rulemaking process. And so that did a lot of things, but one of the core things it did is it changed how jurisdictions do transportation planning. So that was, that happened sort of after or as we were writing the scope for this project. And so that was, there were a lot of uncertainties, and we were one of the first jurisdictions to sort of go through a major transportation system plan update under that new framework. So we appreciate that you were all patient with us and that the community was patient with us as we were trying to understand exactly what all the implications were of those new rules. Next slide. In developing that list of projects that we ultimately developed and you all considered and prioritized, the sort of starting point was to identify what the goals were for this project. And if you can remember back, the way that we did that is we looked across the various plans that the city had already put together And we identified transportation goals, policies, priorities in those plans and sort of used those as a starting point. We then refined those again through that process that Laura provided an overview of. The project management team took a first cut at it. We took it to the advisory committee, the technical committee. We held a public open house in this room to talk about those goals and policies. And then the planning commission and you all had an opportunity to weigh in on those. We also posted, there was an online sort of version of that open house as well for folks who couldn't make it to the in-person open house to be able to provide their feedback on those goals and policies. So these were, a guiding sort of light throughout the process. It's what we're trying to do or achieve with our transportation system. Next slide. There is unsurprising to a lot of you, I'm sure, there's a lot of transportation needs in the city, and limited funds to meet those needs. And so knowing that going in, Matt and his team were smart to sort of say, before we do any of this, oftentimes you'll develop a list of projects and then develop the budget, or do a financial forecast and realize that you might not have the funds to meet all those needs. They were like, we should do that financial forecast up front to sort of help set the stage and understand what we can actually do. So yeah, we did that. We realized there's not a ton of money to do projects in Milwaukie. And so we needed a sort of a way to focus our attention. And what these maps are showing is the sort of outcome of that that focused attention. These were created, these show what we ended up referring to as our priority focus areas. And these were created by first identifying key destinations in Milwaukie. So that's places like schools, parks, retail, grocery stores, common destinations that most Milwaukeeans are probably going to be visiting in the course of their daily responsibilities. So we took those key destinations and then we drew quarter-mile buffers around all of those key destinations. And the areas that you see that are darker blue on these maps, that's where you see overlapping in key destinations. So that's where this helped us focus in on, these are areas in the city, the darker blue areas are areas in the city where there are a lot of key destinations. There's a lot of opportunity for people to be traveling to these places. We then looked at the transportation facilities within those areas, and we identified facilities that were not meeting our standards. They weren't sufficient. So the red is showing those facilities that are not, we would like to do better in those areas. And this was a way to say, okay, here are the gaps. Here are the major needs in Milwaukie that we could focus on in this planning process. And then next slide. And then we eventually developed a project for those facilities. One other sort of important part of our project development process was to identify, for a long time, we have had a roadway functional classification, and which is just a fancy way that we say a sort of a network map that has a hierarchy of which facilities are sort of intended to accommodate the largest volumes of traffic. We've had that for roadways, I think at least dating back probably to the 60s or 70s. We had never had that for other modes of transportation. And so a key part of our process was to develop those network maps with those hierarchies for our other types of transportation. So our pedestrian system, our vehicle or our bicycle system, our freight system, our transit system, to bring the same level of intentionality that we were bringing, or we have brought to the vehicle transportation system, to these other ways that people navigate the city. So we developed that right here. You're seeing the pedestrian functional classification. If we go to the next slide, Along with the map, the other core component of that functional classification system is the description of those classifications. So this is, you need to tie the two together to really get value out of it. The map tells you which facilities are most important, and then the descriptions offer characteristics of those facilities. So for a major city walkway, these are facilities that are providing safe, convenient, and attractive pedestrian accommodations along major streets and trails with the highest level of pedestrian activity supported by current and planned land uses. So we give examples of what those are in Milwaukie. We talk about the land uses that one would expect to find along those facilities or that those facilities could help support. And we characterize what improvements would look like on those facilities. So this is core as, Jen and her team in CIP are designing projects. It's core in the development review process that we can identify, like, what is the intended function of this road? Is this a road that's really important for cyclists to get around? If so, what types of improvements might we expect to find or want on those facilities? So this was another sort of key outcome of the sort of analytical technical process. Next slide. And we did that for all of the modes of transportation, like I said. And now I'm going to pass it over to Matt.
Hi, good evening. So this slide here is just a kind of a sneak preview of how we broke our projects down by mode. And I'm putting it up here just to kind of give everyone an idea of where we put a lot of the energy and time into this project. I'd say this is a multimodally focused TSP in the essence that a lot of the project energy and focus went into improving the bicycle, pedestrian, and transit network so that we have more of a balanced system. Your previous TSPs have all hit upon all of the modes, but I think in this particular effort, we really tried to put focus on improving the transportation system for bicycle and pedestrian in particular. And you can see that on the chart here. So for our financially constrained projects, those are the projects that the city can reasonably expect to have money and funding for. About, more than 79-ish% of those projects are in that bicycle and pedestrian category. So it kind of reemphasizes what we've tried to accomplish for this TSP and make sure that it really is truly trying to serve travel modes for all Milwaukeeans. This next map is really just a kind of a proxy for all of the project maps that we have showing the pedestrian projects. They're all numbered and labeled on the map. You've all seen this before, but for the people watching online, this is just a preview of the different types of projects we have identified for the pedestrian system. We also have projects for the bike, transit, freight, and roadway and intersections. We won't share them on the screen here, right here and now, but we are prepared when if and when we have questions. Next slide. Along with each of the maps is a detailed project table, which talks about the project, where it's located, the start and stop extents of the project, a detailed description of what the project would entail, and then an approximate cost estimate for that project in $2,025. I think we went the wrong way. Oh, here we go. Yep. Okay, so last slide here is a slide about measuring our progress. So the new transportation planning rules that Ryan noted earlier, the state requires communities within the Portland metro area, Milwaukie being one of them, to develop new performance standards for the project. And the city of Milwaukie identified the pedestrian level of traffic stress and bicycle level of traffic stress performance standards. So a lot of the TSP and the projects that we shared earlier are rooted in trying to identify projects that would help the city achieve a basic pedestrian level of bicycle stress or pedestrian level of traffic stress. We set thresholds for those new performance standards. So a PLTS of minimum of 2 or better, or a BLTS of 1. So each of those thresholds became kind of the standard for how we developed and sized projects. And then one of the things that the new requirements also require is for the city to track its progress towards achieving those new those standards. So we developed kind of a way of tracking that called the system completeness. So we have one for pedestrian and one for bicycle. So these two charts here on the screen show what we consider to be the baseline level of completeness for the pedestrian system and the bicycle system, broken down into different types of streets. So we got the major city walkways, the city walkways, and neighborhood walkways. So if you look at the chart, the baseline represents the percent complete of all of your facilities under that category. So if you're talking about the major city walkways, you're roughly at about 53% complete today. If you were to implement all of the Tier 1 financially constrained projects that were developed into this TSP, that percentage would go from 53 to 65%. And then if you improved all of your facilities via all of the projects in the TSP, regardless of whether they're on the financially constrained or unconstrained list, that improvement level will go up to 81%. So you might be asking yourself, why aren't we at 100%? Well, there's certain roadways in town. Let's give Railroad, for example. In that particular case, we're only identifying and planning for projects on one side of the roadway, not the railroad side. So that's where that 19% examples like that, that's where that 19% of missing percentage comes from. It just kind of recognizes that not all streets and not all roadways in the city are having both sides or all roads have some kind of planned project. And in most cases, that's strategic and sometimes not necessary. So that's a quick overview of how the city is going to track its progress over time. And I'll pass it back to Ryan.
Great. So Laura mentioned, along with the repeal and replacement of the existing TSP, this project involves, and this application involves some code amendments to the zoning code. So those are primarily sort of fall into two camps, those amendments. One is the transportation planning rule that I mentioned required jurisdictions, whenever they were doing a major update to their TSP, to also amend some of their zoning standards to help support some of the primary goals of those administrative rules, primarily related to making it easier and safer for people to get around by other modes of transportation, walking, biking, transit. So the code amendments that you would find in the attachment are related to those, or part of them are. So they are related to largely standards that we already had in some locations, like our downtown zone or our neighborhood mixed use zone. They extend those to some of our sort of older commercial zones, our general commercial zone, our community shopping center zone. The rules basically say that all sort of commercial zones in your city need to have some basic minimum standards for new development or redevelopment that will help support, again, people's ability to walk or bike or take transit to those locations. So it includes items like having standards for building entrances, making sure that those entrances are sort of street facing, accessible by pedestrian pathways that are connected to, public sidewalks. It includes standards for where parking can be located on site. So requiring that parking is located behind or on the side of buildings rather than in front of buildings, which is important for pedestrians to be able to sort of easily access that site and not have to navigate through a large parking lot to get to their location. And it includes standards for drive-throughs, basically where those drive-throughs can be located. So that's one bucket, is sort of land use amendments related to those transportation planning rule requirements, making sure that we are in compliance with what the state is requiring. And then another set is basically just references to our old TSP. Our code is riddled with references to the old TSP, to figures, and the code amendments also update all of those references to ensure that our code is talking and to our new TSP and pointing people to the appropriate sections of our new TSP. So it includes things like incorporating those performance standards that Matt was just mentioning, the bicycle and pedestrian level of traffic stress, incorporating those into our zoning code so that, you know, for example, if a builder is required to do a transportation study for their project, that they're also required to look at, if appropriate, those new performance standards that we've adopted. Next slide, please. Yeah, we also, as Laura mentioned, a lot of this is just a repackaging of things that you've already seen before, but there are a couple of exceptions to that. That sort of outcome of the performance standards and system-wide analysis is a bit newer, but also there's some language that we added to Chapter 7 of the proposed TSP that talks about transportation options planning. And then in addition to that, we identified a couple of new projects that were not present when we brought the list to you all for review and prioritization, the list of projects. So those were two projects in the Linwood neighborhood that address connectivity concerns if those properties are to redevelop. And so you see here, there's three roadway extensions, local road extension projects, and one sort of pedestrian bicycle pathway connection project. And those are, again, largely probably contingent on redevelopment in this area, but this is the sort of the network that is envisioned, and we wanted to make sure that these projects were reflected in the TSP. Next slide. Decision down.
So that was a really fast overview of 2 years of work, but you all have been through with us through all of this. So we try to keep it condensed. And so tonight we've got decision options. You can approve the application with the recommended findings and support, approve it with modifications, continue the hearing, or deny the application. I will let you all know that the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the TSP to you also. And with that, we're open for questions.
Thank you. Have we received any additional correspondence on the topic? So I did forward one piece today that came in midday from Kelly Hudson. Have we otherwise received any correspondence? Oh, yeah, that came in this afternoon, yeah. Is that it? That's it, okay. All right. So this script jumps to public comment. Do you want our questions first, or do you want public comment first, or, I don't know, I thought our questions would go first, but I also don't want to make a public commenter sit through a long time if.
I think we have one public commenter here, and he's from ODOT. Yeah, so I think it's just a matter of process. We can go either way.
He's from ODOT, so he can sit here, is that what?
No, I'm just saying he's from ODOT, and he's been on our project team, and he wants to have, support him.
Okay.
No.
Okay. All right, well then I think we should go with our question. Do we have anybody online wanting to testify?
We have no Zoom audience.
No Zoom audience, okay, perfect. So let's do our questions first. So I'll go to Councilor Massey.
Laura, this is more of a process sort of question. So correct me if I'm wrong, but on adoption, this actually becomes part of the comprehensive plan?
it's adopted as an ancillary document to the comprehensive plan, and the goals and policies that are included also go into the actual comprehensive plan.
Okay, so will there be an actual amendment or?
Amendment to the comprehensive plan?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good.
It's included in the package.
Okay, that's kind of what I wanted to hear. I will tell you that there was, a good bit of discussion during the comprehensive plan about excluding the TSP from the comprehensive plan. I think that that was the right decision at the time for a couple of reasons. One, I think the comprehensive plan is, by and large, much more aspirational, and this has got a much more level of concrete detail and that kind of thing. And I think if we had insisted upon putting the TSP in the comprehensive plan, then the comprehensive plan would have been delayed 4 years or whatever it was, So we took a little bit of heat for that, but we got over that. And so I think that was the right decision. I was a little bit concerned because it seemed like the TSP was having a failure to launch initially. And so I was pleased when we finally got it up and running and everything like that. And it's just so much work that went into it that I'm just really pleased and with the work that's been done and how comprehensive it is and that kind of thing. It really gives us a real roadmap. And like you said, it's the constrained, unconstrained. We will be dealing with that every biennium about what we can really do and that kind of thing. So, but it's a roadmap where we can follow and make decisions accordingly on what we can afford to do. Yeah. So, thank you.
Councilor Khosrowshahi?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're going to address this, but I actually just wanted to touch on one of the testimony emails we got that had to do with semi-trucks on Linwood and with the width and everything that was already done on Linwood. Can you kind of just explain that right now? Because our semi-trucks, I don't see a lot on Linwood, but I'm assuming that they do have access to it currently.
Yeah, they do have access, and it's been a freight route for a long time, but no one really looks up to say, I'm going to use this as a freight route. It's more, it's in our system because it's been a freight route for a long time, and it's also, it's really the only connection through on that side of town that goes all the way along. So you do see some freight through there, but even now that it's gotten, the street has gotten so much more limited, I think you see people that are not going down Linwood and freight, but it is one of the designations and it's been that way for a long time. And it's not directing anyone to go there, and I don't think anyone looks it up. So it's not, there's not gonna be more freight traffic on Linwood because it's designated as a freight route in the transportation system plan.
Thank you, I appreciate it, because I think I just wanted to have that clarified, because it sounded like in the email that they were under the assumption that that was a new designation from what it sounded like.
Yeah,
So I
it's
just
been
wanted
there
to
for a
make
long
sure,
time.
that it's already on, that it's on the record, it's already been one. And if you haven't noticed trucks going down it, it's probably because not a lot of them do, so that's a good thing. Thank you, I appreciate the clarification. Oh, I'm sorry.
In addition, it means people are slowing down because it is narrower. And that is a benefit to make sure people aren't driving as fast. This is a school on Linwood, and we want them to slow down. So there's a purpose by narrowing that road down. It was purposely done that way, but it is an arterial. We didn't classify that. It was already classified as an arterial. Yeah.
So kind of related question. The map shows Johnson Creek Boulevard. Parts of it are weight restricted. So this idea that a truck driver says, this is a freight route versus this isn't a freight route, does seem like, I doubt that they're actually looking at our maps to decide if we designated a freight route. But those on Johnson Creek Boulevard, I do see some trucks. And does anyone enforce the weight restriction? How are trucks, how is that handled?
I'm not sure how PD does that, but the tricky part about Johnson Creek is it's actually in certain spots a collector, not an arterial.
Oh.
And that is because of it's partially Portland city limits.
In
and on
out.
Portland standards, it's a collector. We would probably look at it as an arterial, but it's actually identified as a collector. Collectors have they can put weight restrictions on a collector street. If it was an arterial, there would be a little bit different because that's what the purpose of arterial means, is to have freight on there. So that section that you're talking about, that I know, I drive it all the time to go pick up my daughter, it is a collector.
And is it posted? Is the weight restriction posted there?
I don't remember.
Okay.
That, I think it's posted in Portland, not in Milwaukee. So I don't think we actually, so PD probably doesn't enforce that. It would be a Portland restriction.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Thank you. I have two questions. One is on one of your slides, as you were talking about some of the infrastructure code changes, you referenced drive-throughs. And I'm trying to find that in the actual document, like reference to that. I don't know, does that refer to like maybe limiting the number of drive-throughs to existing drive-throughs and not creating new ones? Or can you speak to that?
Yeah, it's not about whether the use is allowed or not, or restricting new drive-throughs. It's about how drive-throughs that would be proposed are designed, basically. It's sort of limiting, it's trying to orient the drive-through lane itself away from the public sidewalk and more towards the interior of the lot. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's more about sort of safety for pedestrians than it is about setting any policy about whether or not we want drive-throughs.
Okay, thank you.
So
That's great.
where can people do drive-throughs? I mean, they can't do them, we don't allow them downtown now, correct?
Yeah, correct. We don't allow them downtown. I believe in other commercial zones that they are allowed. New drive-throughs would be allowed. I could, but I would want to take a more holistic review to get you a final answer on that. But I believe it's just downtown where they're restricted.
Okay, and then my second question refers to Goal 9, Economic Development. And I'm looking through the policies that are outlined here. And I'm kind of wondering, like, if you were to put it kind of in an elevator speech, how could you explain to local businesses, you know, we passed this plan and it connects to economic development, how? What would you like us to communicate to local businesses? I mean, I have some ideas, but I want to know what your talking points would be.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a respond on the spot kind of thing. It can absolutely be a follow-up afterward. It's not a first reading, like time sensitive thing.
It's a deep cut back to the goals and policies. So I appreciate.
I've been thinking about economic development a lot because I have some things that we're bringing back to council, and we just heard the results of the business survey, and I want to make sure that we're tying, you know, all of these threads together. And so, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like
it's
throw you, you know, that deep a line, but I'm curious because, you know, I'm working with Sierra on what our feedback, you know, response, the summary to the business survey would look like. And I'd really love to be able to include, you know, some pieces around this, but I don't want to go too deep. I want to just kind of hit like the main points that would pertain to them.
Yeah, I think it's, I can start. Yeah, I think it's actually taken me back to some of those conversations that we had with the advisory committee and planning commission and you all. And I think if I'm remembering those conversations correctly and just looking again at the policies under economic vitality, I mean, I think it's diverse. I think it's everything from sort of the importance of maintaining a functioning freight system so that, you know, our freight can access our industrial areas, the business industrial zone along 224 and International Way, the North Milwaukie Innovation Area, the manufacturing zone on Johnson Creek, that we have a functioning freight system in those areas. But also thinking about it more broadly and thinking about like what is active transportation, for example, or the introduction of light rail and transit service. What is that doing for our core commercial areas like downtown? How is that bringing people into the city on their, their Sunday bike ride? So I think I think that the conversation's really covered a lot of ground. From basic core services to sort of how do some of these other modes of transportation help support some of our especially small local businesses.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me also think about the neighborhood hubs and the projects that are located around the neighborhood hubs, increasing the walkability and bikeability within those neighborhoods while also kind of building a more compact economic footprint for those neighborhoods. So I would love to work with you on some messaging so that we can kind of layer that in, around this conversation and get them to kind of tune in to this conversation as well as some of the business response stuff.
Absolutely.
I would just add that, the heart of this TSP is really how do we get people to be able to get out of their cars and bike and walk safely to businesses and stores and the parks and schools.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Thank you. And I should have led with thank you because this has been a really long process. I remember talking about this at a neighborhood level before even becoming a counselor. And this is a slog. But this is really an exciting point. And thank you so much for all the work that you've put into it.
I talked to Adam before the meeting, and there's one amendment that we wanted to bring forward on page D67. I'm kidding. I really appreciate all the work that you all have done in this process. Yep. Sorry, Laura. Yeah. No, well, this is the problem. We've had a lot of amendments and tweaks and changes, and I really thank you for bearing with us all through it. Yeah. I had to bring someone. It had to be plausible, please.
Well, and I will say the council president was a part of the TSPAC, right? And so he has a finer grasp of it than probably the rest of us do. And I do have about a dozen questions that I do want to take up. So I gave you heads up about a couple of them. One is at page 54, level of service for vehicles. We have all these descriptions about the pedestrian level of stress and the cyclist level of stress, but we just say, and we have a level of service for vehicles. I feel like we need to cross-reference or explain what that is.
Yeah, I think we're gonna pass that over to that side, to that table.
Sure.
I'll take intersections.
Yeah. So the LOS, level of service standard, is a vehicular-based performance standard. It's got a long history. To boil it down, it measures vehicle delay, or the amount of delay that a person experiences in a car at a stop sign, at a traffic signal. So it's, in essence, it's a very specific performance measure tied and rooted in getting vehicles through your system. There are any number of other performance standards that cities use, and ODOT uses the volume to capacity ratio. Other jurisdictions use that as well. And it's a different measure, but it's, again, very rooted in the vehicular network. And it measures, the theoretical capacity of an intersection and the ability for the vehicular demand to get through that intersection or that roadway segment. Mm-hmm. So they're very rooted in these vehicular-based measures. And I think one of the things that we really tried to do, and I noted this earlier, is kind of shift this transportation system plan away from the vehicular modes. It's not that we don't find them important and want the system to have a functioning roadway network, but we wanted much more of a balanced system. So a lot of the performance standards that we came up with and the new ones that we come up with, as required in the transportation planning rule requirements, is to come up with new standards that allow your city to monitor and track its progress towards the non-motorized forms of transportation. That's where the BLTS and the PLTS standards came from. So I think in essence, because we had so much more of a focus on those non-motorized vehicle modes, we just decided that it was best to keep the level of service as the standard and not try and integrate in a new or more complicated system of vehicular-based measures. And that's the short answer. I can keep going, but we'll see how you respond to that. So.
Well, and so is level of service what we're used to hearing when we hear like, this is a D intersection, this is performing at a D? Okay, so all I'm asking for is, where does that come from? Is that an AASHTO? Is that a whatever standard? And shouldn't we say that in here? Because we've defined the others. If we're not going to define this one, then let's cross-reference where it comes from.
Well, the level of service A through F that you're familiar with, yeah, it doesn't come from AASHTO. It's really, to be honest, I'm putting it on the spot. I don't know this exact ordinance, but it probably comes from a number of different transportation engineering programs like the Highway Capacity Manual and others. And those are well-established and well-known sources for this type of analysis and documentation. So I don't think we have to go back and root it back to those standards. Your existing TSP, the new TSP, identifies what the city of Milwaukie considers to be its minimum acceptable level of service. It's noted a few times within the TSP. It's also noted within your TIS guidelines, Transportation Impact Study guidelines. So
can you point me to one of the places it's noted?
I'm sorry?
Can you point me to one of the places it's noted in here?
Oh, yes, actually, I did write that down. I believe it's on page... I found it was a 55. I put it in my email to you, Ryan. Is it 55 or 56?
Sorry, the question is, where is level of service noted?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. It's on page 55. It's part of table 5-1. So it's Milwaukie performance standards and thresholds. And this, this chapter and this subsection is really is focused on the new performance standards that we're adopting. The table, it's included here in this table just as reference that this is the sort of complete list of performance standards that the city has. But I think we didn't go too deeply into what level of service is. I think in part, again, because the focus of this subsection was about what are we doing differently from what we've done before? And then in addition, it was, I think just understood to be a common measure in the engineering and transportation planning world. And so we didn't go too deeply into it. I think we could.
Well, I'm not really suggesting any long description, but like on 54, you have a footnote for something else saying methodology is found in this ODOT manual. Yeah. Is there not any methodology for LOS is found here?
There probably is. I think that it would have been, we could probably point to I'm sure ODOT, maybe Kenny can help us here. But outlines the ODOT's preferred approach to calculating level of service. And I think we included this specific footnote just because these were more unknown performance standards. And we wanted to, for anybody, and I think there are different approaches to calculating bicycle and level or pedestrian level of traffic stress. And we just wanted to be clear to any readers that for Milwaukie, the way that we are approaching that methodology is ODOT's analysis and procedures manual. So pointing people, we thought it was really important to point people and be clear because they are new standards.
But I do understand what you're saying, Mayor Beatty, is that we need to add a line. We need to add a footnote because we don't say anything about what LOSD is in this table level of service. We explain the other stuff. We don't say anything about it. So if you don't know what that is, you're not going to have any understanding. So that could be one thing that we will fix before we publish it, finalize it. We can add a footnote that leads people to the place where they can learn more about that. Okay. Yeah.
they can take many forms, shared streets, and Woonarfs, which I think Woonarfs are shared streets, but, sidewalks. I guess my worry out of here is, this seems to imply that every neighborhood street will have a sidewalk. Will either be a shared street or have a sidewalk. And while that would be lovely, I don't think that's realistic, and I don't think that's, I mean, even with what in your presentation you pointed out, we wouldn't get to 100% with, all the money in the world. So I guess, I don't know that that's my worry. I don't know that I have a specific suggestion there, but I do feel like we're creating this expectation that everything will either be a shared street, have a multi-use path, or have a sidewalk. And I'm not sure how realistic that is.
And that is for, just so for clarifying, is that just in the local service walkway description?
Well, I compared the neighborhood and the local, and then looked at the map, and I realized the local is every street.
Right. It's all the other streets that are designated something else, right?
Yeah, so I guess it really is about the local service, yeah.
Yeah, so we could add something that would say, something clarifying that, because I do understand your concern is that we're setting an expectation that something's gonna be there, but when there may not be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would argue that a shared road is existing now, even if you don't have a sidewalk, right? You are sharing that road with people that bike, walk, and drive on that street.
But haven't we set standards for what a shared road is?
I mean, it might need some improvements, but it's still a shared road, in the sense. So it eventually could get, some treatments that make it even safer, but it's still a shared road.
I mean, well, that bothers me even more because I thought when we talk about shared roads, we're talking about what you did in Ardenwald North.
That's one version, one type.
So we're just saying every street in Milwaukie is a shared road? Every street that doesn't have a sidewalk
got a lot of shared roads. It does mean that they still they could need improvements from a safety standpoint, right?
Yeah.
As far as that goes. So, do you walk on a street even if it doesn't have a sidewalk? You probably will. Do you bike on it?
No, but if we have a goal of if we have a definition of what a shared road is, and to use it for every undeveloped
But I think
road.
we could get to eventually having safe streets in Milwaukie as a goal. Like, that is my goal. So work throughout the, entire network.
Right, but we know we have.
We have limited funds, right? So it's going to take a long time to get there, as far as that goes.
Maybe if we added some sort of language, I see Jen's point, but maybe it's something shared streets / what is the terminology you just used?
Well, I think we're not using the sort of term here in a technical sense. We're just saying a street where facilities are shared by multiple modes of transportation. There's not dedicated sidewalks necessarily or dedicated bike lanes. Vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists are all using the same facility. We're not referring to any specific design, just that the way that the street functions is as a shared space by all modes. And we're not committing to anything specific, I think, here.
Okay, so you're comfortable with it the way it is. Is your comment on this?
Yeah, but if this is where we've landed, I think that's fine.
Okay. Page 44. Oh, regional transit way. I was trying to, whatever you call it, reconcile the map on 5.4 and then the transit maps later in the transit sections. Are they? 54 is the figure 5.4. And then, like, I was surprised to see Railroad, that's what jumped out at me, was Railroad Avenue shown as a regional transit way, I guess. I didn't know we had very much transit on there, and so I need to go back to, it's toward the back, the transit chapter?
It's showing.
I think that designation is not applied to Railroad Avenue itself, but to the rail line, the freight facilities and I think the Planning Commission wanted that reflected, or thought it was important that that was reflected, just to signal a possible future of high capacity rail transit along that facility.
Of passenger rail.
A passenger rail, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Okay. I mean, we can be aspirational for sure. Okay.
Yes, these functional classification maps are definitely living in both the present and future.
Yeah, okay. Well, while we're talking about transit, it looks like you updated the transit map at page 107, the main transit project, to reflect the TriMet cuts. That we had TriMet here at the work session today, talking about the proposed cuts. And when you guys talked at the Planning Commission, there was we didn't know for sure what the cuts were gonna be, but it looks to me like you changed this map to reflect TriMet's cuts? No? No? Okay. Well, so for right now, I think we have a bus that goes down Lake Road, this T7. Well, anyway, I mean, that's all gonna change, so I don't know that we need to belabor that, but, yeah. Okay.
I think when it,
Pardon?
They go into effect in August, right?
Yeah, they go into effect. And then they're gonna change it again, yeah.
I think what we tried to do with the transit maps is set them up to recognize and allow the public to recognize that Milwaukie supports the future expansion of transit in the region. Those projects were the ones that were identified at the time, and they may come back, so keeping them on the project maps makes sense, at least from my perspective.
Well, and that is what we heard today too, is, they hope that in 5 years we'll be back to, kind of where we are now. The funding, and I almost asked this at the beginning since Ryan started out talking about how you started on funding. So on 71, table 7.1, you list funding sources. No SDCs. Do we not consider SDCs? Are we not able to? I know we actually had an item earlier tonight where we are having a consultant for SDC, transportation SDCs.
We can use SDCs on these projects. We still have to go through our methodology of how we're going to be able to apply that. So that's another step that we'll be working with FCS. And they will identify how much of the project can be paid by SDC. And it's based off of a growth, it's based off of a capacity, all of those things. What will change is I'm hoping we'll have more pedestrian and bike usage on some of those projects that we could use it on as well, because that's a lot that we have in tier 1. And so that will be still coming.
So are SDCs actually an invisible subset of one of these funding sources you have linked here, or we actually think we'll have more money?
I don't think so. I'm believing it's included in the charges for services and fees. Where
You think it's there? Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Amy can probably, yep.
Okay.
Amy's the number cruncher.
Okay, great. And then, I just was curious on 105, table 7.8, the numbers of things are out of numerical order. So does that mean they're in some priority order that was different than how they originally got numbered for the map and I guess I wanted to clarify, TriMet's already working with you on a bus upgrade. And is that the King Road or is that the 32nd?
No, this is, we have two projects that we're working on with them. One is on Harrison, right by the church between 224 and, the Max Rail. We're gonna reduce that down to one stop, and they're gonna update that with bike lanes and a median crossing right at the church. So you're gonna move those bus stops that are right at 224, which is great because that is some congestion that's happening. Pull those back and then eliminate the other one because it'll be so close. So that's one project. The second project is the potential of line 33 being a fast track rate.
Right, that's
and
the
so
one I meant.
that's the second one that we're still working on with them. Yeah.
So that's T5 on this list, right? Coordinate with TriMet to help support and implement new bus rapid transit express
Yes.
service. Okay. And yet this list lists a project for bus rapid transit going north, which is the 32nd Avenue.
Yes.
As a higher priority. Oh, I guess that's my question. Are these in some priority order? Why are they not in numerical order?
I think that's oversight on our part. I think we just need to rearrange the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, we've noted it, we'll fix it.
There was an initial, I think, attempt to keep them in some kind of an order based on how they were scored. And at the end of the day, on the transit project, it probably just makes sense to renumber them in a numerical order so you don't have to ask questions like that. So.
Okay. Okay. So they're not necessarily any priority to them. Okay. Okay. And then truck freight. So you talked a little bit about truck freight in answer to the question about economic development, but I guess I'm just thinking back to the 2007 TSP when I was on Planning Commission, and we had a lot of actual NMIA businesses wanting these improvements. I know this time it was harder to get freight operators involved in the TSPAC, but I was a little disappointed to see none of these making the funded list. I just want to know sort of what you've heard from the business community, from what you've heard. And I was curious as to whether we heard anything in the survey that Sierra did this year about that.
Well, I would start by saying the list is y'all's list. So if you want something to go up into the tiers, then we can put it in the tiers, but then sometimes to come out, right? Like that was a conversation that you all had. So something needs to come up. I think that we did really try to have the freight community involved in this process. We had 3 different people that we had on our committee at various times, and they did not participate very much in the process because I think that they saw from the very beginning that it was much more of a focus on pedestrians and bikes. And I also think that we did bring all of the NMIA projects forward. So all of the projects that were identified are still in the plan. So I feel like we didn't hear from anyone about potential new projects. And I don't believe that anything came out of the business survey that indicated, no one brought that up. We talked to Sierra today and no one had brought anything up.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, fair enough. If they're not expressing concerns about it.
If they do, we could look at a grant to possibly move those forward, right? So they're in the TSP. We could always, if a grant comes up or, helping write that grant or, anything like that, that's a way we can also move it forward. The next way is we do, take out some debt to bring it forward. Like that's, another option. So just because it's in another tier doesn't mean it can't be done in the next 20 years.
Right. Well, I guess I'll look at Joseph in your prior role as CD director. Did you ever hear from businesses that expressed concern about about truck access or problems?
Like freight movement, good movement in general?
Yeah.
Not really.
Not really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we do obviously have some big employers in international. Their more concerns were just parking and street condition primarily, not necessarily.
more than that.
I just wanted a point of clarification. Was there a specific recommendation that you saw at some point in the plan that you wanted to see promoted, or you're just wondering about feedback through the process?
Yeah, I just wondered about feedback through the process because I don't know. I mean, I have no way of knowing what's the challenge to a truck moving. I drive a small car.
And then I guess like a small follow-up to the team, even though you didn't have really consistent participation, I'm assuming that they remained on the email list and had an opportunity to weigh in, given various phases of this project. And did you hear anything? Okay, so then, this was an area that I was interested in as well, and we had worked together to get Titan Freight participating for a while actively. And, I think that no communication probably means that they're okay with the projects that did move forward.
Well, again, I think all of these, I think, are on the NMIA side. So I don't know if Titan, would have been that keyed into them. And I do distinctly recall, 3 or 4 businesses that participated in 2007. So it's just, but, yeah, it's been out there for the public. They've had a chance to participate. On the last page, vehicle miles traveled per capita, we started with the COVID year. We started with our baseline is 2020. That doesn't seem like a very good place to have a baseline.
Yeah, these numbers are produced via the Metro Travel Demand Model, and they've got different base years and forecast years that they utilize. And just because it says 2020 doesn't mean it's reflective of traffic conditions. It's a model, and it's based on probably multiple years of traffic counts and other things building up to that point.
Okay.
But it's not a snapshot in time of
April of
2020. April or May of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question, but yeah, no
okay.
concerns there.
Okay, fair enough. Then just one other thing, which is a comment, which is not something that belongs here, but I want to kind of think about where it does belong, is I noticed on Engage Milwaukie that there were some comments about parking, needing to restrict parking close to intersections, and particularly where, neighborhood streets come into an arterial or a collector that's going by. And I share that concern. I do think we have visibility and turning problems at some certain intersections. So is that something that's in the public works standards that are out now for comment? Or is that something that the PSAC would discuss, or where would you have that discussion?
Yeah, we are currently having it in PSAC as we've received a couple spot proposals. As because people are concerned and they're parking too close to the intersection. So we're working on some solutions for that, because you don't want to just sign everywhere in the city, right? That's a lot of signage to do. So we're kind of looking at, one way I solve it is I put in bulb outs, right? So the bulb out forces you to move away from the intersection. We can't do that everywhere either, right? Because that's expensive. So we're looking at possible thermoplastic, delineators, education. So you're going to start seeing a little bit more education that's going to come out of like, hey, you shouldn't be parking in front of a fire hydrant. Intersections, like there is going to be things in the pilot article we're going to start putting out. So it is a PSAC initiative that we're working on. And I hope to grow it. And yeah, I'll have more to tell you as it happens and it evolves.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. That's all of my questions. If no other questions from anybody else, we will then go on to public comment. The council will take public testimony on the updated TSP. I feel like since we've been told that there's no one online, and since we only have one commenter in the room, I don't really have to read the rest of the script. So we like people to keep to 3 minutes, but we'll let you have 5. Oh, so our commenter is Kenny Worth from ODOT.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have, I won't go on longer than 3 minutes for sure. Yeah, like you said, my name is Kenny Worth. I am an associate planner with the Oregon Department of Transportation. I'm here on behalf of the State of Oregon's Transportation Growth Management Program. TGM is a joint program of ODOT and the Department of Land Conservation and Development, working to create thriving, livable places with diverse transportation choices. We provide grants to cities, counties, and special districts to plan for streets and land uses that lead to more livable, sustainable, and economically vital communities. We are proud to have supported and worked with the City of Milwaukie on its transportation system plan. As previously mentioned, while the city was in the process of developing its work plan, DLCD was updating the state laws that govern TSPs. The new rules aim to increase opportunities for transit, walking, and bicycling, and supporting housing and new development. This TSP is the first in the state to put those new rules into action. Your staff and the consultants have plowed new ground through this process. These efforts will help your community members thrive, and we have already been sharing their new discoveries and techniques with other communities around the state. I'd like to close with congratulations on your new plan, and thank you for a great partnership.
Great, thank you very much. Okay. Does staff have any response to the testimony?
Thank you, ODOT. Thank you, Kenny and Glenn, for being such good partners and being at all of our meetings and being on this long journey with us.
Okay. Does council have any questions for staff? If there are no more questions, I will entertain a motion to close the public comment part of the hearing.
I move to close the public comment part of the updated TSP adoption hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public comment part of the updated TSP adoption hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. The public comment part of the hearing is closed. Is there any further discussion? Well, nice job. I know it's been a long road. And I mean, you know, we had, you know, the plan, if somebody looks at the plan, it looks modest, you know, it looks small, but there's like 900 pages of attachments. And I mean, very detailed stuff, the comp plan amendments, the code amendments, Metro's RTP amendments. It's a very dense package. It was a lot of work. So good job. Okay, you ready to?
You ready to pass this sucker?
Yep.
All right. I move for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance adopting a transportation system plan as an ancillary document to the Milwaukie Comprehensive Plan and amending related policies and development regulations. File number CPA-2025-001.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance adopting a transportation system plan as an ancillary document to the Milwaukie Comprehensive Plan and amending related policies and development regulations. File number CPA 2025-001. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Mr. Brilio, would you read the ordinance 2 times by title only?
Proudly. An ordinance of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, adopting a transportation system plan as an ancillary document to the Milwaukie Comprehensive Plan and amending related policies and development regulations, file number CPA 2025-001. An ordinance of the City of Milwaukie, Oregon, adopting a transportation system plan, TSP, as an ancillary document to the Milwaukie Comprehensive Plan and amending related policies and development regulations, file number CPA 2025-001.
All right, Mr. Stauffer, would you please poll the council?
Council President Anderson?
Aye.
Counselor Stavengord,
Aye.
Counselor Coster-Body,
Aye.
Counselor Massey,
Aye.
Mayor Beatty.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0, ordinance 2262.
Yay! Okay.
Way to go, team. Way to go.
Do we want an encore discussion?
Oh,
Congratulations.
yes. Yes. Okay, we have council reports and legislative update. Scott and our council president can probably tag team with Scott, because is fresh from Salem today.
Yeah, indeed. The end is nigh. We are
In
week
many
from sine
ways.
die. I bet they never say that in Salem. Yeah, they got a week to go. The bills we're tracking, I think we got the 6 that I was aware of. These 4 I'll have recommend do pass, and I saw some emails trickle in over the afternoon that they were moving to second readings and things like that. So it seems like these 4 may be on their way, unless other people know anything else.
Council President, you think 4177 is going to go?
I think so, despite all the coverage in the Oregonian.
Oh, okay. Okay, awesome.
So,
I like it.
yep, some
Okay.
changes to public meeting laws in response to that. And the Affordable Housing Revolving Loan Program looked like it was moving to 4037. And then the 2 that may not be as lucky, 4007 and 1541, hadn't had much.
Yeah, I heard from I heard from somebody last week who's involved in advocating for 1541 that he was throwing in the towel. So I gather it's.
Yeah, I don't think that was on the Ways and Means list. 4007, I think, is going to pass, but the provisions about safe routes to school in 50-30-20 are not included in the bill.
Oh, so that's good news. Okay. Okay, awesome.
Okay. And then letters, there really weren't any council letters sent, although I just noted that 3 council members sent letters in support of Dev Northwest. And then the mayor sent a thank you to Representative Bynum for coming to chambers the other day.
Yeah. And I did submit some online, I didn't do formal letters because it was typically on the weekend, but I did submit my own and I didn't submit anything on behalf of the city or the council, but I did submit my own views on a couple of bills, including one that Rep. Gamba has talked me out of since then. So, anyway.
So that's all I got.
Council President, any big news? What happened with the Measure 114 firearms thing?
That one is in the Senate, stalled for now, but we've got a few days left.
Did it pass the House?
Pass the House?
Pass the House,
Yep.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. And what happened with the movement of the transportation package to the May ballot?
That passed the House. That was just signed by the governor actually today.
Oh, it was?
Yep.
So, okay,
Passed both House and Senate.
okay. Okay, interesting. All right. Any other legislative, any other legislative things first? No, okay. Any other council reports?
I'll do my next week.
Okay. Okay, Joseph?
I just have one thing I've heard from all of you regarding using some of your budget for the Wichita purchase. So it's $6,750 from you all. You will see a consent item likely next council meeting, just stating that much, and then we'll have to obviously work with Wichita to get it invoiced and figure it out. But after that, you can put it on social media. Just do whatever you're gonna do. I know that was part of
We
it.
can challenge
Yeah.
Happy Valley. You need to, yeah. Oh, are you? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
But as of yesterday, I heard from all of you, so we'll get it in process.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about council budgets, the council president and I are giving a part of ours for the historic homes inventory project. We have been making progress on that with the Milwaukie Museum and our planning commission chair. And we should have a little more detail to share, end of the month or early next month.
And I just might note, it'll happen before the next council meeting on March 16th. Will be the dedication ceremony of the first fish, heron artworks in Milwaukie Bay Park. And they want to keep it a little bit on the down low, not a huge crowd, not a huge extensive program. But yeah, we've kind of spread the word, and the word is kind of getting out there about it. So yeah, March 16th, 11 a.m.
There's quite a discussion on the Chit Chat about what the posts are.
I heard.
We know.
It's really good.
Oh, yeah. You have
It's
something?
10, so I move to adjourn.
Okay. It's been moved.
It's a little rude.
It's this side of it.
The motion came from there.
Oh, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, yeah.
Yeah. More ayes than yes, sure.
All right, we are adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Mary, you gotta slam that.